Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and finding us today. My name's Brian Engelman, and this is the New American Media. The show is the Agree to Disagree show. Well, let me turn this down. Please leave your comments. We love including your jokes and questions and commentary into the program. Big fan of that. Appreciate that.
And sorry for the delay. Yes, we had a little studio conflict, unfortunately. We do share the studio space, and Mike Barrow was doing a live stream on another channel. I don't think he knew, but it's all good. So we're here. Thanks for sticking with us. Hello, Kenneth, and everybody out there.
Yes, indeed. It is Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, and we're going to discuss who we bring in as refugees to the country. We're going to talk about the intelligence agencies. Are they running the country? New James O'Keefe story we're going to break down for you. Also, what in the world is going on with Boeing? A little right on the nose, if you think. That's a joke about, a little pun about airplanes and the nose of the airplane. But yeah, a second whistleblower is no longer with us. What in the world is happening? We'll talk about it. And then criticism. Should that be banned in the United States? I don't know what wormhole we've entered, but I want to go back to the other one because we're in Crazyville. We're going to talk about the campus protests, astroturfed by radicals. Also, should the ICC investigate 10-7? Will Biden lose the election because of his... that was one, Blake, when I saw it, I'm like, I feel like I'm going to read the question and blurt out my answer really quick. But could Biden lose the election because of his support for Israel? I have an initial thought that I almost literally can't read that question without blurting out. I'll try to hold on to it for you to later in the show. Also, we're going to talk about the Daily Wire. Yeah. Is Matt Walsh going to be leaving there next? Seems like if you don't toe the Shapiro line, you out. Are they scared of Candace Owens exposing Benny Boy, as Blake likes to call him? Yeah, I think these two stories were from last week, but they're last Tuesday, but it's essentially the same. Israel, Zionist, Gaza. It's so while things are happening on the campuses, okay, this is being pushed at us 24/7. Every place is showing us different videos. Woman gets knocked unconscious at UCLA. A bunch of guys go, push back and defend their stuff. While all that's happening, what is the left hand doing? But while that's all happening right here, oh, look, there's all this stuff. Look, it's manufactured. Look, it's a scorpion and a tarantula in a cage. We're shaking them just like Charlottesville. We're shaking them just like J6. We're shaking them. Look, they're fighting. Look, they're fighting. What are they doing with the other hand? So I'm just very curious what is happening behind the scenes and while we're distracted with all of this. So anyway, we'll get to all of these stories and more. What up, Jocelyn? Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. Blake can be found. He's on X at TV's Blake Walley and The Next Level News. And maybe in a new location. Blake and I we're just kind of talking about that off air, but I want to get him set up on a Give, Send, Go or Patreon or something that we can promote during every single show because Blake puts a lot of time and energy into figuring out what's going on in the world. And, it ain't it's not a free endeavor to pay for the hosting on the Restream and doing the artwork and the Canva and all the time and energy. It's always good to have something sent your way. So I want to work with Blake to get that set up on the side. But follow Blake, The Next Level News, and at TV's Blake Walley for sure on X, a good follow, who's now been showing up in my algorithm occasionally. And speaking of that algorithm, that would be the New American Media. On X, we're at American_media_. On Instagram, it's the New American Media. On Facebook, it's the New American Media page. And TNAM's the Agree to Disagree show private group. Telegram, TNAM and TNAM chat. On Rumble, we're the New American Media. On Spotify, the podcast is the Agree to Disagree show. Also, the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. I'm hoping to do a sports show tomorrow with Zach Barris about the new Brook Park Browns. Have you heard about the new Cleveland Browns complex moving out of downtown, Blake? I know you guys have an incredible stadium. Have you been to a game there yet? With the horn and that or whatever those Vikings were doing, and they're they all start clapping. That seems like an
skull.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's the skull chant, right? No, I have not been to U.S. Bank Stadium yet, but I have driven by it. That's about as close as I've gotten. I don't live in Minnesota anymore, but if I did, I would definitely make an effort to go to the game because that is a pretty cool stadium.
Yeah, cool environment for sure. I know there's a non-zero chance that Blake and I end up going to cover at least one, if not both, of the conventions this summer. I don't know if it's likely or unlikely or a coin flip chance, but that would put us right up in the Chicago, Milwaukee. I mean, we're getting dangerously close to Minnesota territory. Unfortunately, I don't think the Vikings will be playing in July or August when the conventions are happening.
Mankato, maybe, yeah, for minicamp. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe some of that. We'll see. But yeah, so you can also check out the Unhappy Hour Sports Show podcast on Spotify as well. The New American Media is on Truth Social. Please get us on Truth Social. We need more followers there. We need more people on Spotify for the podcast. Rumble, we keep adding. It's a slow burn. We keep, it's not the exponential growth we're hoping for sometimes, but it's a slow burn. I remember year one in YouTube. It's maddening to just do shows that 5 people watch or 12 people watch or 30 people watch. But, you look back on 14 years and some of them hit, some of them don't. And I don't know, either you keep going or you quit. And you can find all of our stuff minus what YouTube is censored at youtube.com/@thenewamericanmedia. 1,400 videos over 13 years. Please check that out. And patreon.com/thenewamericanmedia if you would like to support the New American Media and what we do. We appreciate all of you to buy us a cup of coffee or to really fund what we're doing. It's greatly appreciated. So that being said, let's jump into this. Well, I guess we'll start with this second story. Here we go. Blake, do you agree or disagree that intelligence agencies have deliberately withheld information from Trump? What is going on? Agree or disagree? Are the alphabet agencies acting like they're the ones in charge instead of the damn president of the United States?
Yeah, I would agree with that regardless of when you asked. But, of course, it came to light yesterday after the bombshell report from James O'Keefe doing some more undercover journalism as one of his ladies was out on a date with allegedly a CIA contractor guy. And he divulged that information that they all thought Trump was stupid and they withheld information from him because in their estimation, he was going to, leak that out to whoever. And maybe he could have. I don't exactly know, but I think that's absolutely wrong.
And Blake, every president could leak stuff. Every single one. The Bushes, Obama, whatever this former Vice President Biden has been doing for the past 3 years. Every president could, but who does it start and stop with? Who's the commander of the military? Who answers to who? Is it the president's answering to the intelligence services, or don't the intelligence services work for the president? They've got this all backwards.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to work, but I think even JFK said back in the day he wanted to smash the CIA into 1,000 pieces. I don't know the exact quote, but something like that. They did know the threats, and even Eisenhower before him warned about the dangers of the military-industrial complex. So these agencies have gone rogue, and they control the presidency. Like that was apparent under Carter, and apparent after they killed JFK. Covered that up, and then of course Reagan got shot with his it seemed like they wanted to assassinate him and put CIA head George Bush in as the president, but he survived, and then probably he got the message then.
And did you hear what Trump said in that recording with Andrew Napolitano about why he didn't release the JFK files after 50 years? He's like, if you saw what I saw, you'd understand why I didn't. He goes, but one of these, he goes, but, and he said something, and he's like, yeah, well, I could tell you about that if all of my phones weren't being listened to all of the time. I mean, like, it's obvious that the intelligence agencies have been overthrowing duly elected people for a long time. And I wouldn't mind. I actually wouldn't give a shit either way, Blake, if they were propping up the purchasing power of our dollar. They were keeping us out of unnecessary foreign conflicts, running a decent border program where only the best of the best, the brightest of the brightest, the ones speaking English, fully wanting to become American and embracing our Bill of Rights and our ideals. but that's just simply not the case. The people running things are destroying them, and it seems intentional. Jocelyn says withholding information is one thing, but to do so, to undermine Trump's ability to govern effectively, is totally another thing. Indeed.
Absolutely.
So I don't know.
I guess just on a quick side note, her husband was in the band Oingo Boingo. That's pretty cool. Brian, do you know who Oingo Boingo is?
Yeah, I was going to make a comment, but Blake and I are trying to do 60 to 90-minute shows, and I'm trying to stay focused and not go on 17 sidetracks. But I feel like, Jocelyn, there was someone that I was working with called 10 Finger Orchestra, TFO, and I know there was an Oingo Boingo connection. I don't know if he played with them or something, but it was something about Johnny Rabb and 10 Finger Orchestra, and they opened up for Oingo Boingo, or he played in their band or something. Yeah, wasn't that Danny Elfman? Oingo Boingo?
Yeah, that was his band. He had some hit songs. I remember the theme song from Weird Science and some other ones. And of course, he went on to be a composer for a lot of movie soundtracks and TV shows, including The Simpsons. So,
of course, probably one of the most recognizable intros of all time. There's just something awesome about a good TV show intro, whether it's Green Acres is the place to be, or the Beverly Hillbillies, like The Simpsons. Just, you can hear these TV show intros. Cheers, do 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 do. Like, we can hear it. Like, that is our childhood. That is our, I don't know. There's just something so iconic about these intros to movies and shows. It's some of the best stuff out there, and maybe that's because TV partially raised me. Jenna Elfman, Danny and Jenna. Okay, now I think we met Jenna Elfman at a Laker game. My cousin and my fiance at the time, I believe they ran into Jenna Elfman, and she said she had long monkey arms to take a selfie with. Ran into him at Kobe's last season at Staples Center at a Laker game. Weird small world. Now we're talking about Jenna Elfman and Oingo Boingo, and I got a story for both of them. Who would have? I didn't have that on my bingo board of discussion today, but I'll take it.
But here we are. But yes, quite an.
So back to the intelligence agencies, Blake. I don't know if you had anything queued up with the O'Keefe undercover footage, and we've been having a private conversation. Blake doesn't chime in very often in the Telegram feed, but we have a side group, and it's just kind of like, well, can you trust what's coming here from this conversation? It's like, here's a guy, a hornball trying to get laid. Wouldn't you say anything? Wouldn't you say, I work with Russia? If you meant that this girl was gonna, provide you some great moments that evening, and it's like, I mean, I might tell her that I was with Putin if it means that I'd get with somebody awesome. But no, on another topic, no, I wouldn't. I have a million stories to tell, but I'm not going to make one up out of nowhere. So the specificity of some of the stuff that they were talking about burner phones, and his ex-wife is their favorite target, because then if they just surveil her, they get all of his burner phones when he calls in or texts in. And it's just, there was a lot of specificity in there. So to claim this guy's not CIA, I'm not buying that for a damn second. It's just such a shame. It seems like Donald Trump, the energy around Trump pushes a squiggle line from the cartoons at like the worst people in politics, government, and they hate him and attack him nonstop. In the O'Keefe video, I mean, the guy's just bragging about what everybody knows Obama and Biden are doing. And something needs to change. Something needs to happen about this. And unfortunately, if we stay on this current trajectory, what's going to happen is more bad shit for good people and more chaos for them, and more looting, more theft, more murder, more mayhem, unnecessary foreign wars, sending our friends and family home in body bags, bloating our 30 whatever damn trillion deficit. None of it makes sense, but the people running it don't make sense. The people running it aren't working for us. The people running it don't give a shit about us, and it's obvious. So, I mean, if you want to talk about Matt Gaetz calling for an investigation, we will join with Matt Gaetz here at the New American Media and the Agree to Disagree show to call for an investigation. That's all they do. They investigate, they hold hearings, and then crickets, tumbleweed, nothing. Democrats at least do shit. They do bad shit, but they do it. They say the Democrats are the party of bad ideas and the Republicans are the party of no ideas. That's way too damn true too often for me. But anyway, pass it to you, Blake.
Yeah, no, these agencies have gone rogue. They're too powerful, and they're not going to be able to conduct an investigation. And I don't even know who would have the authority to run one. I don't know, an inspector general. Nothing would probably happen. It'd be like the Durham report, and it would take 3 or 4 years, drag out, and then somebody would get slapped on the wrist.
And the Durham report, Blake, was damning. The Durham report was all sorts of malfeasance, election interference, civil rights violations, treason to overthrow someone who's, became the president of the United States, all in an effort to sabotage his presidency. All of it. I mean, it was Hillary Clinton. It was paying for a fake dossier so that you could get fake FISA warrants so you could spy on everybody and listen to every conversation, check everybody's internet history. There's a Fourth Amendment right to privacy. And I guess in this digital realm, there's no such thing. But if there's no such thing, we just have to declare Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, the death of America. There is no more country. There is no more United States. This is a damn free-for-all. If the governing principles that are crystal clear, mind you, they're crystal clear. There's no ambiguity. Well, the founding fathers said, you could have a gun as long as it's not a scary looking one. It's like none of the arguments against the Bill of Rights and our constitutionally protected civil liberties, none of it is ambiguous. Yet here we are because they will not stop attacking it. And nobody is prosecuting the Hillary Clintons, the Barack Hussein Obamas, the intelligence agency officials who are just running roughshod over America, over us, over our civil liberties. So I don't know. I don't even know what type of country we pretend to have. I don't even know. Oh, we should defend the American flag on UCLA campus. Should we? What does it even stand for? What even is it? Who gets to define what it is now? It's just, there's some days I'm a little bit more optimistic, and there's some days it's once again the Simpsons line. But Dad, if you're the police, who will police the police? I don't know, Coast Guard? It's like Supreme Court and military tribunals. Shit. Is there anybody above Supreme Court and military tribunals? I don't know what hope we think we have. And I don't know what we've done in the last 3.5 years to shore up the election system to be confident that what we're going to get is something resembling an honest accounting of the zeitgeist of America, the mood or feeling of the nation's citizens based on who votes. How comfortable are we? How confident are we that what we're going to get in November is going to represent the will of the people? Or is it going to be stolen? Dare we say again? Because the election interference this time is off the charts, unlike anything we've ever seen, Blake. And when you have the CIA allegedly actively sabotaging and spying, I mean, that doesn't leave you much solid ground to build off of.
Yeah, no, it's pretty frustrating stuff, and I don't know where to go to. The only thing we could maybe hope for is that there is some sort of election integrity and Trump gets back, and maybe he'll have something to say about these agencies. Maybe he'll get to fulfill what John F. Kennedy wanted.
And I thought, and I shared this maybe in reaction to this video that I'll pull up and get to when you're done sharing your screen, Blake. But, when we're talking about how far they're going to overthrow the country and how long has it been overthrown? Was it since 60? When did they off Kennedy? 69?
63, November 22nd. Yeah.
63. And then the moon landing was 69. I think I flipped
those.
But yeah, in 63. Maybe we haven't been a proper country since then. Maybe we haven't been a country since the Civil War. Maybe we haven't been a country since, the late 1700s. And it's all just been a facade. They'll let you be as free as you. They'll give you a little bit of reign, but don't you dare step out of line and think that you actually govern your people. And we've seen how many overthrows of banana republic shithole countries across the world, at the doorsteps, at the foot of the CIA, at the intelligence services. Mix in the others from Great Britain and the other spy agencies around the world. I mean, it's just hard to imagine that we've been getting anything similar to reality. We've had a virtual reality for a really long time, and I just think it's finally caught up. Maybe Trump got so much support, even with all the Hillary cheating, they couldn't push her past. There was no way to do it, and I guess they just finally figured out, all right, well, it's mail-in. We got to pause. We got to find out the final tallies, and we found some more boxes. Look at this. Changed a little code in the algorithm, but you can't verify it. You can't check it. I mean, maybe that was the last time that the deep state was like, devowed. We will never again let somebody who's not of our party, and we call it the uniparty, two wings of the same dirty bird, the Republican, the Democrat, the right wing, the left wing, the red, the blue, the Hillary, the Mitt Romney. It's the same shit. And it's shit. These are awful people pushing awful policies. So when Trump came in, he's like, hey, I'm not them or them. America overwhelmingly said, thank God. Yeah, you're boorish. You make too many jokes. You're too aggressive. You're a little uncouth. You seem a little unstable. Your Twitter storms are this and that. It's unprofessional. I get all that. I get all the criticism. But my God, just having an actual person who's been CEO of countless companies, some of them even successfully. Well, he went bankrupt a couple of times. Yeah, no shit. Everybody does. People in business that run 100 businesses, yeah, they don't all make it. No, you can make it to the Hall of Fame in baseball, Blake, by hitting 300. That's 3 hits out of 10, a 70% failure rate. Okay, it's all right if Trump Stakes or Trump University didn't work out. But yeah, I mean, we just find ourselves through the looking glass of crazy. But once again, this is the stuff you and I have been covering since we've been in media. We've known that this is happening. We've been trying to warn people. It's just a slow slide down an icy hill. So, I mean, what stock do you put into the James O'Keefe story? What's the significance here? Did you want to play a clip from it? Like, what do we need to know about it?
Well, the clip is just basically like a 27-minute video, which I watched last night. And yeah, he makes some interesting admissions about that, but it seems pretty, I wouldn't say he's bragging too much to get, he didn't divulge too much information. He was tight-lipped about certain things, but he was, happy to say that he did, work for the CIA, or he was a contractor through, and it all, looked pretty legit. And then, of course, typical James O'Keefe confronted him at the end, and he didn't want to talk about it when he realized he was when he was busted and he realized that he was on hidden camera the whole time. He didn't want to say much. And then apparently the CIA fired him. And now this video has been removed.
Blake, that literally. Oh, I forgot to mention, go to odyssey.com and find the New American Media, because it has it's a duplicate of our New American Media channel on YouTube, but YouTube has been deleting videos. I watched that video go delete in real time in front of you while we were getting ready to talk about it and play it. That is something. Did you just refresh it or find it somewhere else?
No, I mean, it's still available on X. I don't know where this came from. If this was I think it was a YouTube video, which is a problem. So I'm sure it still exists on Rumble, and I'm surprised they didn't embed it with Rumble, but sometimes Rumble does have some issues with their playback. YouTube is a much smoother experience, but this is the kind of stuff they pull. And they leave lots of holes on your website. I know I've got some to clean up myself. But yeah, interesting that this CIA guy got caught, who thought he was dating this girl, admitted some interesting things, including that, basically the heads of the intel agencies are withholding information from Trump because they couldn't trust him. So that was key to note. Also said, Israel was not necessarily our ally, and that a lot of the countries, they sort of hack each other, because he was into cybersecurity. They hack us, we hack them. So there's a lot of interesting note there. What else did we learn? Trying to think what are some of the other highlights. Maybe they have something listed in here, but I can't remember offhand. It'd be nice to have a couple clips. But what is interesting is that Matt Gaetz is going to be running an investigation. But again, where is that actually going to go? I don't know. But I can only hope that he's also, says, there's no way that Trump can get reelected. And that might be true within the apparatus they have now. But if there's some way that they can change things before the election to get more transparency and integrity and get rid of all of the BS things like the mail-in voting and the signatures and the IDs, then maybe they can clean that up and get Trump reelected. And then he's going to probably start going after some of these agencies, as he should. He needs to fire all the top people and do a big house cleaning and restart these agencies with some people with integrity. But, it needs to be more people involved in this as well, because Trump surrounded himself with a lot of bad people. When he did get elected the first time in 2016. So there needs to be a proper vetting process in place so that we can make sure that we actually get the right people for these heads. Otherwise, we're just going to keep running into the same problems.
Yeah.
So, Brian, do you remember any other highlights specifically?
Well, like I said, just the burner phones.
Oh yeah, that was big. Yeah, that's big, because then they're also admitted they're spying on Trump still to this day, along with probably many of his associates, including his ex-wife, as you say. So if he's using burner phones, that would be the way to get it.
Oh, speaking of burner, we did put this out on TNAM Music. Once again, if you're on X, go follow Blake Walley at TV's Blake Walley, and follow the New American Media at American_media_. On TNAM Music, we put out there, speaking of burner, Afroman has now released a remix of his biggest song, and it stuns the libs. Blake, have you heard what it is? Do you know the title?
Yeah, I heard it. Is not a full song, is it? It's just a clip?
Yeah, well, it's Hunter Got
funny.
High.
Right.
Hunter Got High, a remix of his biggest song. Speaking of burner phones, I'm sure Hunter Biden has burned quite a bit over the years, that degenerate slob. Anyway,
right.
Okay. So yeah, the burner phones, that's that kind of cues into this one. Did you have anything else on this page? Because I'm going to bounce to the Tulsi Gabbard part.
Okay.
Because she kind of breaks this down. This is important enough. Maybe I'm just going to play. Almost the entirety of this is worth understanding. So I'll play a little bit. I'll pause it, Blake. Let's maybe get your reaction. I'm not sure if you've heard this particular clip or not, but I'll just kind of let it play and we'll react in real time, because they really break down just how bad things have gotten and what it means and how they're doing it, because the spying is done in a hands-off way that's sneaky and creepy. It's shady. It's illegal. It's nonsense. You cannot. Well, let's just listen in their words, have the talk about some of the things that have been snuck through with the help of traitor Speaker Mike Johnson.
And on this potential TikTok ban.
The TikTok ban.
I oppose it. I oppose it on the grounds of free speech and civil liberties. This is, speaking of fomenting fear, this is one of those pieces of legislation that's, if you just read the talking points for those who support it, and it's supported by many people in Congress on both sides of the aisle, you think like, oh my gosh, we've got a national security risk and you've got concern for our kids and all of this other stuff. But when you actually read the language and understand the implications of what this legislation does, it's not really about TikTok at all. It's about government being able to choose what platforms are acceptable and what are not, and what we as Americans are able to either get information from or put information out.
So she's going to elaborate that on a second, Blake. But, we talked about the TikTok ban, and, it's once again one of those things, you name it the Patriot Bill, but it's nothing patriotic. It's civil liberty stomping. That TikTok bill, I don't know. I mean, where do we stand on that? We're against it. Are we with Tulsi Gabbard opposing the TikTok ban, or we're happy that they're stopping it because their heat button and all the crazy stuff that they're pushing and trying to ruin the brains of all of America's youth, and they're using it for Chinese propaganda, but we're allowing the Facebook propaganda. Where do we stand on that? Are you kind of in between? Are you against it?
Well, I've changed my views a bit on it. I'm not really, for the censorship per se, but they were making at least a strong argument when they were trying to convince us that it was basically run by the Chinese Communist Party and that they were deliberately pushing propaganda and deliberately dumbing down our youth. That would be problematic. But later, it seems to have turned into a thing where and they just passed this a couple of weeks ago on that Saturday, and it seems some people are suspecting it's because of alleged anti-Semitism, but that there's too many videos that will say anti-Israel, and that might be part of the reason. And that was also put out by ADL Jonathan Greenblatt, who was considering TikTok a threat. So there might have been some pressure from some of these groups saying we want to ban TikTok. So, but it's also clear that it's actually run by the communist Chinese. So,
yeah, and I think they said that they'd rather close their doors to the company rather than share the source code. So they're definitely up to something, hiding something. That's for damn sure. And they're definitely warping America's youth. But, the problem is this wasn't much like everything else. Oh, look at this. There's people in tents on campus. Oh, look, they're all singing the same little sing-song song. Look at that. She's got a megaphone. They all have the same megaphone. Cool. While they're doing that, they're doing something on the side. The problem with the TikTok ban was this wasn't a one-issue vote. It wasn't just about one specifically defined narrow provision. It's murky. It's a Trojan horse. And Tulsi kind of expands on that here because as we unpack and figure out what's going on, we instantly want to go, oh, well, yeah, I'm a patriot. Yeah, the Patriot Act. Yeah, let's go get the bad guys. And, oh, TikTok. Yeah, TikTok, China. I don't like China. China doesn't like us. Yeah, what do I care about TikTok? Tulsi explains the problem.
And then you look at, okay, well, if they're giving themselves that authority, how will it then be enforced? Then you get into the civil liberties concern of the Fourth Amendment of government overreach and trying to figure out, okay, well, now I'm going to have to look into your phone and figure out if you're the guy who's using the VPN to illegally download this app. Then you're looking at, the designation is that if you have 20% or more ownership stake or stake in a business that has been designated by our government to be illegal because of its association with a foreign adversary. There are a few countries listed there, but the president would have the power to designate any other country a foreign adversary without any kind of, Congress wouldn't have to take action. It's a unilateral move.
Let's double that part one
other
more
country
time.
A foreign adversary without any kind of, to government to be illegal because of its association with a foreign adversary.
So once again, they've been blaming Trump with Russia the whole time. Like, oh, well, look, Trump's a Putin puppet. He's a spy. It's a rigged election. It's election interference. Putin. Russia. The problem is that they can lie about anything that they want to pin the tail on whichever geopolitical foe seems to fit their fancy for that particular day, Blake. Let me play this a little bit more here because she kind of goes on to explain. So when someone can unilaterally then declare someone to be, have associations with a bad government, well, here's what comes
been designated by our government to be illegal because of its association with a foreign adversary. There are a few countries listed there, but the president would have the power to designate any other country a foreign adversary without any kind of, Congress wouldn't have to take action. It's a unilateral move. You are also implicated if you are someone who the government determines to be influenced by or connected with one of these countries that is a foreign adversary.
There you go, Blake. Let's talk about that. If you're influenced by or connected to a foreign government, it's all tangential. Well, you talk to so-and-so has a connection with so-and-so, and then they something with that government. So see, because something convoluted, we're now on to you. Now we've got a problem with you. We're going to make you a problem and we're going to use some weird, convoluted is really one of the best adjectives I can come up with to describe these ways to take people out. Just guilty by association. And especially in journalism, Blake. I mean, God, imagine the people we talk to and the people in those people's cell phones. Like, that puts us in the crosshair. We're not doing anything. Like, we're not bad guys in any way. But when you allow this type of power to go to the government, it can absolutely be abused, right?
Right. They probably wouldn't have an issue with the TikTok ban if it was, something that they could control and infiltrate like they have with YouTube, or they used to have with X, and they do on, Facebook Meta. So it'd be different. They could just shut things down when they want to. But if they have no control over it, they don't like that, which is obviously bad news. And with MJ Sedona, sad to realize these pro-Palestine and pro-Hamas TikTok videos are being pushed. Obviously, today's students are not critical thinkers. That it's a tough issue because some of them are seeing some of the horrors from Gaza and they're outraged. And everybody can make their own videos, whether it's Israel or it's an interesting way for people to push information. But
I have a thought on that point. I was going to save it for our the 4 or 5 stories related to. but where are the student protests against Hamas? Like where are the ones trying to overthrow Palestine and put a sane government in there? I don't see any of those protests anywhere. It's like, oh, well, the people that got attacked, we're going to protest against them. But we're not going to go against uprooting and going after the people that butchered 1,200 at a music festival. Where are where's the energy to go drag all those people out from their caves and have a public execution for what they did to start a war that led to civilian deaths? There was no civilian casualties until they started a war. Where's the energy to get the people that started the war?
Well, what if that didn't happen? What if there wasn't the heavy-handed tactics in retaliation? Well, what if it were just focusing on, saving the hostages? And then we could focus all of our attention on Hamas has innocent people as hostages. That could be the whole story, rather than, oh God, now they're carpet bombing and slaughtering tens of thousands of people, most of them innocent civilians. And then that, obviously takes the precedent there. And now people are focusing on that, which is embarrassing for Israel. So, they want to shut down TikTok so people can't access those videos. And I understand because, I have a lot of Fox News on in the house. Without getting too into the weeds, I don't watch, I watch some of it casually, but they don't show you, they're very one-sided with this. And where I, have been sympathetic, I like a lot of what Fox has done the last several years. When it comes to like wartime stuff, when it's all of a sudden it's Putin and Russia, or it's Israel, or if it's, back in the day of WMDs in Iraq and Afghanistan, this and that, I tend not to like Fox very much. They tend to be very much pro-war, which does bother me. And they're not being very honest. They cover this 100% pro-Israel without showing any counterpoint, without having any pushback. And people are kind of in the dark about that. So if you talk to the average Fox News person that watches that, they would have a completely different view of the war than just say some, average person that watches TikTok videos. So, people need to get a balance of news. And it's very interesting. But we're not calling to shut down Fox News. No, we're just calling to ban TikTok, as if that's going to be the solution.
So this would be a good opportunity, Blake. Would you like to praise the Agree to Disagree show and my stewardship thereof? Because I have clearly more, probably, I don't watch Fox, so I don't know what they're saying, but I guess you keep accusing me of something with Fox. But so is this a point where I could give you the floor and let you praise my stewardship and leadership here, so that the Agree to Disagree show, we can have robust conversations about the topic. It's my least favorite topic. Anything race related, anything Jew related. I'm so over it. I really dislike it, but we hear both sides out. We battle. You say your talking points. I give you my opinions. We talk, and there's we're not on the same page. We do give a point and a counterpoint here, right?
Right. So yeah, I've kind of said you're like Fox because it's kind of that one side of things, and I think you've been very much 100% pro-Israel. I don't really see much of a criticism from you on that, and that's fine. I know it's an uncomfortable subject. It is for a lot of people. I don't want to have to talk about this either.
And to be fair, if I could add one thing, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't give a shit. Respectfully speaking, with all due respect, I don't give a shit about Palestine or Israel. I don't. It's not where I live. It's not where I'm from. I don't care, per se. I'm not Kentucky Derby's this weekend. I'm not rooting on one of the horses. I don't care, per se. I have zero empathy for the butchers who blasted 1,200 people at a music festival. I'm so angry at watching that. It just, spare me the crocodile tears over, oh my gosh, I can't believe they retaliated. It's like, I can't believe you did what you did. Like, it's like they're finishing a fight now, and it's like, I don't particularly have much of an opinion on it other than let's go get every single one of the people that butchered those innocent people at a music festival. I take that extra personal because I'm a musician and I've booked events, I've booked festivals, and I couldn't imagine what it takes for someone to do that. So I'm not pro-Israel so much as I am anti-butchering innocent people.
Okay, no, I agree with you there, and I would agree it's bad to take hostages, but obviously, but at the same time, there's some problems with that whole 10-7 story, and
I think we'll get into that in a little bit, Blake, with the ICC. I think one of the topics is about calling for an investigation.
Let me finish my point, because you talked about the music festival, right? Well, that's fine. That it should have been all about sympathy for Israel. It should have been, oh my God, these awful people invaded, slaughtered people, and then took hostages. That's horrible. But then there's the whole, well, how do we have this major security lapse, number one? And number two, why did they make up war propaganda? It's bad enough. You get the whole world on your side
but both sides make up war propaganda.
Stop interrupting me. So, boom, you kill people, you take hostages. That's bad. Now, why are they going to go a step further and say, oh, well, these people also committed mass rapes? Why do they have to make up a hoax about 40 beheaded babies or babies in ovens? That was completely unnecessary. That didn't need to be part of the equation. All I wanted to see was a full investigation, and the whole world would have been on their side. But that's not what happened. And so then they started slaughtering people, which is now blown up into a genocide. And now they've basically, Israel has overplayed their hand, or at least their leadership, Bibi Netanyahu and his party. And now people are pissed at him. Now the focus is on that. Now you've got, as the International Criminal Court up his ass.
Well, what I was trying to add as context is that there's propaganda on both sides. You repeat the Palestine propaganda. You call out everything from Israel as being incorrect.
Okay, but that was propaganda. There were no mass rapes and there were no beheaded babies.
Wait, there weren't rapes during that. Really? That's your take? That's just factually incorrect.
Well, even the Washington Post, even New York Times has walked that back. Blinken walked that back. Biden had to walk that back. And now Washington Post has even questioned New York Times. None of that happened. That was all made up. So
not a single woman was raped that day is your contention.
As far as I know, there wasn't anything like that. So why would they make that up?
All right. Well, I mean, why they would make it up, I don't know. But I think
with the 40 beheaded babies was a ridiculous story. So if it's bad enough you're slaughtering people at a concert, but all of a sudden, they're in villages just beheading babies. That was a total bullshit lie that came from the top of Israel and Bibi Netanyahu. And they had no reason to add that. The world didn't need to, have that effect or that story so that we could get involved. You didn't need to lie to get us interested. But now that's ruined their credibility, and it makes me question everything else about 10-7. So what I want to see is a full investigation of 10-7 before anybody escalates anything further.
Where do you stand on what President Trump had to say? We were talking about hostages. President Trump recently wrote on Truth Social that Israel and Hamas are unable to negotiate a deal to release hostages because, quote, there are far fewer hostages than currently being thought, adding that Hamas is incapable of holding Jewish people for a long period of time without killing them. Do you suspect that there really aren't even any hostages, which is why they have no negotiating chips to broker some sort of peace agreement? And they can't tell you that all those people are gone, and so that's why they can't broker a peace deal? Or is it because every time a peace deal has been offered, Palestine flat out refused it?
Well, I don't want to say Palestine, yeah, Hamas, and of course.
Do you think Trump on that point?
It's certainly possible, and there should be a ceasefire, and they should show proof that these people are alive or dead or not. Yeah, absolutely agree. They need to find out who everyone is accounted for and find them.
All right. We kind of danced into the ICC thing. We'll get back to that in a second, but let's wrap up with some of this with Tulsi, because it's crucial that we understand what they slipped in with this turncoat, Mike Johnson.
And so, Elon Musk has talked about this. It is not outside of the realm of the not only possible, but the probable that if they wanted to say, okay, well, Elon Musk is doing business with this country that we don't like, and he also owns this platform called X. X should be shut down because of this association. I think Ron Paul said it best when he said that this legislation is the most, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said it's the most egregious violation of civil liberties since the Patriot Act was passed in the wake of 9/11. And when you look at the arguments that are being made around both of those pushes, they're in invoking national security concerns, and the language and the way that's written is intentionally vague, that puts far more power into the hands of the executive branch, just like the Patriot Act did, to single-handedly say, well, this is a good guy and this is a bad guy. And that has a direct implication on Americans.
So the Trojan horse aspect there, being that there's a lot of good arguments that could have been made for saying why TikTok shouldn't be rotting the brains and pushing public policy in the United States. She's talking about, well, now just look at Elon. Okay, well, you have a battery plant for Tesla in China, so therefore you're with China, and China's a rogue nation, so now we got to shut X down. Elon bought X to take it away from the deep state and give people a place to speak freely again. And Tulsi's warning that, look, now they're probably going to use this in this intentionally vaguely worded policy to go after the few remaining sites, like the Truth Socials, the Telegrams, and Rumbles out there with X. I guess, how likely would you assume that to be, Blake, that they're going to go after Elon and use some convoluted reason, like I just put out there, to shut him up now? Because the left they don't seem capable of winning arguments based on the merits of the argument. And that's so important for them to silence the opponent so that they can't even put good ideas out there. And then you go, well, I guess there's only one idea. Got to roll with it. What do you think?
Yeah, they're going to try to go after anything that they cannot control. And even when these were private, companies, they still were able to infiltrate them using, this whole Russia collusion nonsense as a reason. It's like for national security. And so they're just abusing their power. And so, but yeah, I don't that I look at TikTok as like this bastion of free speech. There's plenty of censorship on there too.
They get a lot of good info out. I don't use TikTok. I don't care, but I see a lot of people sharing stuff, and it's some of the investigative work that they're doing is even more in depth than what's happening on X, for that matter. I think there's a lot of good stuff mixed with a lot of bad stuff happening on X. Jocelyn saying TikTok systematically censors 80 to 99% of posts on certain viewpoints relative to Instagram, as reported by mainstream media. Yeah, well, here, let's continue with Tulsi, just because I think it's such an important conversation.
And wasn't there another recent thing that passed that allows more observation of people through cell phones?
Yes. Yes, and both of these things were actually wrapped up into that same bill that
It was the
just
same
passed
bill?
through. They lumped together a whole bunch of different things. They were
Like they always do.
separate previously, but the thing that the TikTok ban was lumped together with was the bill that would reinstate or extend the FISA authorities, the Foreign Intelligence Security Act authorities, for another 2 years. Section 702 of FISA gives our government the authority to surveil foreign actors, essentially, to try to identify terrorist threats. But part of that is they have the ability to capture all of the conversations. If you talk to somebody in another country that they're interested in, they can then go in and capture all of your information as an American citizen. And they can do this without a warrant. This has been in place for quite some time.
And this was grossly abused, Blake, by Hillary Clinton going after Trump. And it's like, instead of indicting the people that clearly broke protocol, that clearly violated civil liberties, they're just re-upping it again. I mean, could you be any less disappointed in Mike Johnson for pushing this stuff through?
No, he's really been bad. He had his chance to shine, and yeah, he'd rather embrace the attention and the deep state than he would to take that opportunity to serve the American people, even though it's not the easy thing to do.
Right.
This legislation that was just passed recently expanded those authorities so they can go and actually look at like your Wi-Fi history. If you're connected to Wi-Fi, they can look at everything that you did connected to that Wi-Fi signal and in some other ways.
How fantastic is that, Blake? Looking at everything from your Wi-Fi signal. Just to see what's going on. I feel like we have an amendment, a Fourth Amendment, to specifically so that can't happen. But they're doing it with impunity right now.
Well, yeah, they've circumvented everything. It's all in, national security, and it's a lot easier to, to get these warrants to go to look at people now. So that's what they want, and they're afraid of, people rising up, standing up.
Right.
So it's sick, but anyway. All right.
Problem and made it many, many times worse. And again, they're just saying, well, it's for national security. The problem here is
that's the thing they always say.
That's the thing they always say, and it's
security.
like, I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said, if you are choosing security over liberty, you will neither be secure nor will you have liberty. That's not an actual quote, but that's basically the point here, and that's the false choice that so many of these politicians are forcing on the American people is you can either be less free and more safe, or you can be more free and, oh, by the way, you're going to invite more terrorist attacks or more national security incursions on our country. And it's just BS. It is BS.
It's also very un-American.
It is.
And here's a problem with government overreach. The government is just people.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like,
Blake, Joe gets into this here. He's going to expand on it, but before he gets into it, I mean, the government is not some highly esteemed council that has floated down from the heavens above with qualifications and the right to dominate and rule over humanity. These are just people, and the fact that people worship government and allow these overreaches, Blake, do you think this is a curable condition? It's just, I don't know how we've allowed it to get so bad over just a couple hundred years. It's gone so bad. Is there a chance to fix this? Is this just humans are always going to gravitate toward being ruled by tyrants, and it's just a cycle we're never going to be able to escape from?
Well, that's been a historical trend. Yeah, it wasn't until the Constitution and our forefathers rose up, give some rights to the people. But yeah, most people don't pay attention, and it's easy for them to get ruled over by people who are ambitious and crave power, wealth, and once they get there, they want to keep their power and control. So there's Magna Carta too. That was a reluctant from the king to give some power to the people and the Constitution. But yeah, outside of those couple of events, it's been, this planet has been mostly some kind of tyranny or monarchy or authoritarianism.
Hell, call it an Alex. Call it a prison planet, right? It's not too far off.
If you thought of them as something other than a 3-letter name like DEA, CIA, NSA, just a bunch of people.
Yep.
You would go, well, why is this like the DEA? Why is this 10,000 people telling all these other people what to do? That sounds crazy. There's way more of them than there are of us. If it was just in this room and Jamie turns out to be the cop and he says, hey, I'm going to put you two in prison because I heard you like hemp.
Yeah.
You're like, Jamie, fuck off. That's crazy. But if it's a government agency with a 3-letter name, you're like, oh, this is the government.
Right.
It's the government is just human beings.
Yeah.
And there's just a natural inclination that people in power have is to try to gain more power.
Yes.
Rich people want to get richer. Hot people want to get hotter. Like, that's what it is. You know, it's like everybody wants to improve.
Yeah.
And the governments, they're in the business of telling you what to do, and they want to be better at that business.
Yeah.
And the best way is to be able to, like, constantly be able to surveil everything you say and do.
Right. And again, it
we
goes,
shouldn't let them.
No. And this is the problem. This is the problem is that, you know, every elected official swears an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Yet, as we saw with this most recent example, they are so ready to undermine our Fourth Amendment rights in the Constitution in the name of national security. And I know some of them are doing it with good intention, but without actually considering that the challenge and responsibility of those in government and those who have this power is to strike that correct balance between ensuring that our liberties and our constitutional rights are protected. You swear an oath to do this when you take this job, while also ensuring, okay, well, we can do both, and we secure and also be able to live free without worrying about every time you pick up your phone or you make a phone call wondering if the government is surveilling us.
So, Blake, Tulsi Gabbard has been on the short list of President Trump for vice president, of course. Haven't made a decision on that as far as we know. But Tulsi's probably floating around there somewhere toward the top of the short list with Trump. Trump's also, it's not in our stack, but I did share it with you, just briefly get your thoughts on it. Tulsi's probably Tulsi, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. There's probably 10 or 20 decent people in government. They seem to be on point most of the time. But President Trump has accepted an opportunity, an invitation to speak at the Libertarian Convention. It's very unconventional. And you a lot of people that aren't really all gung-ho about Trump. And I know several close friends, people that I've interviewed, whether it's AJ or people I played high school with growing up, they don't like Trump, and they can point to 5 or 10 things like, oh, he's not libertarian on this. He had the wrong position here. And it's like, a lot of people have been begging for the Tulsis and the Pauls and the Masseys to drag Trump a little bit more libertarian. Do you think Trump attending the Libertarian convention, it might move the needle? Are you surprised why the libertarians would even want that? Isn't that just going to compete? Because Trump is saying these libertarians, these are Republican voters. They got 4% last year, the last election. If we get this 4%, I mean, it's going to be a complete blowout. We're going to win the popular vote. We're going to do this and that. So I don't know. It's interesting. I know you've had some inner working knowledge of the Libertarian Party. I was curious to get your thoughts.
No, I think it's great that he's going to be there, or he's invited and he's going to speak. I think that's good for everything for civil discourse. We should all have those debates. So yeah, there's a lot of this MAGA group are kind of, libertarian leaning. And that's what Ron Paul was. He's a libertarian who ran as a Republican. And so, I kind of loosely consider myself, I don't know, libertarian, Green Party, independent. I don't know. I'm probably just mostly independent, but I'm all for, hearing all the different sides. I think that's good.
Absolutely. It's there have been very few libertarian conventions that have been newsworthy, but this is instantly newsworthy now. Jocelyn says if our government can ban TikTok, we will be next anytime we post on X. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'll give messages to the pigeons. I'll fix it to their little feets, and I'll send it out on the pigeons if I have to. So anyway, all right, let's move off of this one.
Okay, Brian, we're about an hour into the show here. How long is this broadcast going to be today? I keep talking to Brian about trying to get the 90-minute show. It seems to be difficult. And we're already we like 2 stories in. I think we got about 8 more left. Let's.
Well, I mean, but to be fair, the last 6 stories are the same anti-Israel story. Like, it's just different perspectives. So we'll get to all that, and we've covered the ICC story in that first story. We've touched on some of the things.
Not quite. Maybe we want to do a quick. We could do a lightning round on it. I don't care. But we'll
let's get to.
We milked the shit out of that Tulsi Gabbard story. So which was nice.
Isn't it important to know what the government is doing? What these bills were, now that we're unpacking what's actually happening, as the CIA's actively withholding information from the damn commander in chief. It's way more relevant than, oh my gosh, these 2 factions are still fighting over in the Middle East, like it's always been.
Well, I hear you, but those are like hot issues right now. Those are like headline stories. That's something that as painful it is, we have to talk about it. And the more that we talk about it and we're transparent and people are on the same page and have that understanding, then we could get past these things. So the reason why we're stuck here is because there's a big misunderstanding about these events. And a lot of people are seeing it as a one-sided affair. I'm trying to be objective and looking at it from multiple angles here. These are issues I want to solve if we can. Not just recite talking points, or I'm not getting paid to.
But to be fair, I mean, it really kind of feels like when we get into this topic, it's just playing tennis with the same 10 talking points.
I know. I think you have the same kind of talking. I think a lot of that 100%.
Oh, I have talking points, but you don't. Okay.
Well, I think I've done objective work on that, where I think you're.
But I'm not objective. Okay.
Whoa! I think you're 100% on one side, just like I would say.
I think you're 100% on the other side, but you're not seeing that either.
No, not. Right. I think I've called it on both sides of this, so I think I've been pretty fair on that. I don't think you like to talk about it. I think I've seen a lot of interesting debates on it. Have you seen comedian Dave Smith? You seen some of his debates on this?
You've played some of it on the show, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think you make?
All right. Well, here, instead of us talking about what we're doing, let's just do it. We'll get to all of the Israel stories in 6 seconds. Hit touch and go on this one, and we'll bounce off it. Blake, agree or disagree that Boeing should be investigated by the feds after a second whistleblower? Do you agree or disagree that Boeing should be investigated by the feds after a second whistleblower has died?
Yes. So if we wanted to actually make them the good guys again, these are kind of the things that these agencies should be investigating. They've been weaponized against the American people. So they're going to go into your kids' school, or they're going to, shaking down patriots somewhere. Are they going to be listening on tapping on phone calls, or they're doing all kinds of other stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and they should be investigating Boeing. This is awful. So we've got a second whistleblower now that has mysteriously died.
How coincidental.
Right. This is something that you would think this is kind of thing that happens in Soviet Russia, and maybe sometimes it does. But it shouldn't be happening here in the United States, but here we are. Now it's time to do something about it. So let's pull up.
They like to go after whistleblowers. They don't. It's like, what is that? That's Julian Assange with WikiLeaks. It's like, wow, did you see this? Oh my gosh, you're gonna tell the truth about something? Well, then you're a bad guy, huh? I mean, you're covering a story that you don't want covered, but it's factual. Whereas all of these 91 indictments against Trump, like, these are all just conjured out of thin air. No legal standing to base it on. It's just like, it's kind of like you were saying a moment ago. We're focusing our energy on the wrong stuff. But let's talk about Boeing, because they've been having a lot of plane issues. There's been a lot of accusations of DEI policies that have put incompetent people into place, and it's led to damn near catastrophic circumstances that I don't think we've seen the end of it yet. I mean, we're talking about faulty material, we're talking about poorly assembled products, and God knows how many airplanes are afflicted with this, and now 2 of the whistleblowers have been erased.
Right. Well, I'm not going to go into the DEI thing, but I will say that perhaps it looks like they maybe were cutting corners with, the pricing of things. It seems like they're more interested in making shareholders money than they are, creating a safe experience for our travelers. We prioritize the wrong things. And
yeah,
so
like maybe the hatch itself, maybe the hinges, you can buy them instead of $100, you can get them for $50, but you're using a far inferior thing that's blowing apart.
You can have them. Yeah, you can have them assembled in China with cheaper parts and or cheaper materials, and you can make stockholders lots of money. But yes, once these parts wear out and there's problems, then and there's airline tragedies, and these whistleblowers, they're people that have been trying to warn the higher ups. What we're doing here is going to cause problems down the road, and so what do? They kill the whistleblowers. So sick.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know what else we can cover on this one. It's just here's a second one. I don't know. I mean, shortest lifespan in America is a Boeing whistleblower. It's kind of incredible, actually. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep following it and keep being careful on Boeing. I don't know what to say. It's unfortunate to see, for sure. All right. Let's get into the fun stuff, I suppose. Blake, agree, disagree that we should bring Palestinians to America as refugees for protection?
Nah, I don't know about that one. I don't know if I really like that a whole lot, but I'm sure if they can vet some of these people and they do want to come to America and they embrace our culture and they want to work and they aren't involved in, with Hamas and they're not terrorists, then sure, we can always invite some, good immigrants into the United States. But it's not, how many people. That's going to be an issue. So that could be problematic. And it's a very different culture. So I don't know if that's going to be, real compatible with our modern Western culture. Maybe, we can always integrate some good people, but to just bring them in because nobody else wants them shouldn't be our priority.
And once again, like you said, with nobody else wanting them, for the people that call it an apartheid state and Israel are terrible neighbors, it's like, well, they have another neighbor called Egypt. Save some of that anger toward Egypt. Like there's multiple players, but only one side ever takes grief for it. Yes, there's 2 sides there. Hard no on that. President Trump was pretty clear. We don't want to import people from places in the world that hate America. That's just suicidal. And as far as, what you said, Blake, that was pretty balanced. That was pretty straightforward, honest, and fair. If these certain conditions are met, okay, perfect. Let's look at the conditions that have been met at the southern border. Oh, wait, 20 million people, prisons have been dumped, mental patients, tons of migrant crime now, all sorts of budgets being exploded across the country. They're being handed ballots in some places. Being told to register to vote. Some places are saying illegals can vote in local, but not federal, but not local. It's like all of this is crazy. So the same people who brought you 20 million crazy decisions, completely unvetted. We went from you can't work a job, you can't be in the military, you can't get on an airplane without your Vax card. Show me your card. Papers, please. Papers, please. Oh, but wait, 20 million people can just hop on a plane in a special illegal alien invader line and just get dropped off wherever you want to go, free of charge. So those are the people that would be vetting to make sure you're not bringing in Hamas terrorists. Make sure you're bringing in people that speak English, that are self-sufficient, that have skills that can contribute to the welfare of the economy of the United States. None of those conditions will be met because we've seen the people in charge. Jocelyn says maybe you guys should do 40-minute daily shows. I so enjoy your views on the news. Thank you, Jocelyn. I live for these compliments because Blake and I, we discuss things off air, and there's questions over whether our show is, we have questions. Are we growing fast enough? Are we reaching enough people? Are we doing the right time of day, the right length of show? Should we do shorts? Should we even do this regularly? Should we do it more occasionally? Like, we've had every conversation, but just knowing that you enjoy our views on the news, I appreciate hearing that, Blake. I think that's cool. We appreciate your views. Every time you comment, it's cognizant, it's focused, it's clear, it's important insight. You give us comments. Jocelyn is this is MJ Sedona. You give us a lot of opinions that I wasn't thinking about, and just by reading the comment, it kind of sends us on a ancillary diagonal path of conversation that makes the topics a little bit more robust and interesting, in my opinion. So, awesome.
Right, we appreciate our great audience. Yes, I would love a 40-minute show. That would be a dream. Maybe have 40. 40 is hard with two people, but I mean, kind of, if we could get these into an hour 15, 90 minutes at the absolute most, that would be ideal. But that seems to be a struggle.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we're working on that. Thank you for the good comments. Did you want to play something here about Egypt?
Well, this is you posted this video, so I assumed you probably wanted to play this one. It's about why Egypt or some of these other countries don't want to take some of these Palestinian refugees. And
I think that's the guy that sits there drinking a cup of coffee. He's like, well, maybe I'm just thinking, but this guy's kind of funny. I think it's Nick Freitas. If you want
I'm not sure. I don't know who this is. Right.
Why aren't more Arab countries in the Middle East taking in Palestinian refugees? The onset of a renewed war between Israel and Hamas has led to fears that millions of Palestinian people living in the Gaza Strip may be forced to become refugees. But despite the fact that Gaza shares a border with Egypt, the Egyptian government almost immediately ruled out any possibility of accepting Palestinian refugees. In fact, Egypt is currently constructing an even larger border wall with Gaza than the one it currently has in place. Now, many outside observers have asked why Egypt, a majority Arab and Islamic nation, would turn away the Palestinian people. And of course, many have pointed out that it may serve the political interests of many Arab nations to refuse to accept Palestinian refugees because it allows them to then blame Israel for any sort of humanitarian crisis that unfolds. But the thing is, historically, many Arab nations have accepted Palestinian refugees, and that may be why Egypt doesn't want to now. For example, in 1991, the Kuwaiti government actually expelled nearly 300,000 Palestinians in the aftermath of the First Gulf War, and this represented an astonishing 18% of Kuwait's entire population. So what was the reason? Well, the Palestinian Liberation Organization had actually supported Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait a year earlier. And this support only grew after Iraq began attacking Israel with rockets throughout the war. After Kuwait's liberation, the government considered much of the Palestinian community to be complicit in the Iraqi occupation of their country. And in response, nearly all Palestinians were deported in just a few months. And this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Decades earlier, the Palestinian groups operating in Jordan had come to openly call for the overthrow of Jordan's monarchy in the aftermath of the Six-Day War. At the time, the PLO maintained its own separate army on Jordanian soil and used that armed force to sow chaos. Armed gangs of PLO militants drove around the capital of Amman, robbing families and businesses in the name of collecting financial assistance for the ongoing war of attrition against Israel. When members of the Jordanian police and army tried to defend their citizens from these attacks, they were attacked and killed. The Palestinian political network operated as a state within a state, with militants repeatedly using Jordan to launch rockets into Israel. The Marxist-Leninist Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine even went so far as to hijack multiple planes, diverting the flights to a Palestinian-controlled airfield in Jordan, where the passengers were held hostage. By September 1970, the Jordanian army had finally had enough. A full-scale war with the PLO broke out, and after 10 months of fighting, the Palestinians were driven out of the country. Yet, as a parting gift, a Palestinian terrorist group known as Black September assassinated the Jordanian prime minister. Sadly, the story doesn't end there, because the PLO then moved into Lebanon, where they allied themselves with Marxist and socialist movements that were seeking to overthrow Lebanon's conservative Maronite Christian government. The presence of thousands of Palestinian militants flooding into the country completely destabilized Lebanon and plunged the entire nation into chaos. Less than 4 years after the PLO was expelled from Jordan, Lebanon found itself in the middle of one of the most bloody and chaotic civil wars in Middle Eastern history, from which it has never fully recovered. In short, Palestinian organizations have not just attacked Israel. They have sowed unrest in many of the neighboring Arab and Muslim countries as well, and this has led those governments to the conclusion that allowing for mass immigration or even just refugee camp resettlement within their borders would lead to domestic unrest for their own countries. And this, of course, only exacerbates the humanitarian crisis for those Palestinian non-combatants caught in the middle. The problem is, as long as terrorist organizations like Hamas and others are elected to represent the Palestinian people, their plight will most likely continue, as neither Israel nor apparently the surrounding Arab nations want to see their own populations threatened by terrorist groups.
You're right. That one did play very well into the Egypt commentary. There's a lot of insight there. Yeah, the PLO and Hamas, you know, BLM, Summer of Love, Antifa. Pick your. It's just kind of like you're rebooted under a different name, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of countries over there that can't stand the Palestinian terrorists, and it's when you see all of these spontaneous protests across the colleges, it's like, where's the energy of burning the Hamas flag? Where's the energy to throw and uproot the terrorists out of Palestine that are ruining the chance for success and safety and stability in that nation because they go. You know, as
well, we don't entirely,
for example. Right. I mean, there's a reason why Egypt doesn't want them, because they destabilize everywhere they go. Same has been accused for Jews. Oh, they've been kicked out of every country they've ever been. Well, I wonder why they've been kicked out of every country they've ever been. You know, it's like I hear the same arguments from both sides. But what did you make of that video?
Well, no, he brings up some valid points, and I'm not, saying it's all right or wrong. I mean, he even says, maybe because of this, maybe because of that. I can assume a lot of that stuff is true, but it's also, yes, there are some bad elements of these governments. And one thing I will dispute is that he says, for the elected Hamas, but I think there was an election. I think the last one was 2006. So most of the people that actually live in Gaza didn't actually have a chance to participate in the vote. And it's too bad, because there's a lot of probably mostly innocent civilians that are being, ruled by, the radicals, the extremists, terrorists, Hamas, or whether they're PLO or what have you. So it's kind of this lost colony there. They've always been kind of ruled by somebody else. Before it was Israel, it was is England, and it was the Turks, it was the Ottoman Empire, it was the Romans. So they've always kind of been under occupation, and perhaps they're haven't had a good chance to govern themselves, and they get the wrong elements that take control. But they don't have a Constitution, Bill of Rights. They don't have those sorts of luxuries either. But I mean, trying to move that many people might also be difficult. I mean, Brian, what if we were gonna integrate, or what if we were going to have, people in Wisconsin all had to, move to Minnesota? That's going to put a strain on the resources.
Well, it's been floated, maybe sarcastically, but I mean, why is it sarcastic that Iran should have to give up that amount of land for Palestine, and they should have to accept them as resettlements, as reparations for funding the Hamas attack that killed 1,200? I mean, they're the ones responsible. Mm-hmm. Biden freed up the cash. Mm-hmm. They immediately went and attacked their neighbor. All right, Iran, you lose this land. You hate what happened in 1948 with NATO, and wait, but NATO, they never approved it. They never stamped it. They never signed off on Israel becoming a nation. It never really passed. Okay, well, maybe you take that much land from Iran as reparations for the damage they caused in the war that they started. So if there's all these innocent people trapped in the middle, where are the telethons? Where are the marches and the people with the bullhorn saying, take out Hamas, free all the good people, have a new election, nothing in 20 years. Jocelyn says, so let me get this right. Basically, they're going to bring a bunch of sleeper cells here and then blame Trump when something goes wrong. Bingo, Jocelyn. Friggin' bingo. But let's talk about the protests, Blake. Agree or disagree that okay, you typed it with the word majority. I would maybe take that out. But agree or disagree that a majority of the campus protests are astroturfed by radicals. Agree or disagree?
I think I'm seeing a lot of all, so I didn't want to say the majority, or what should we use? What kind of words should we use instead? Because
I guess majority would be 51
words in your mouth, but I think you've kind of alluded to that. Like they're all done, like they're all astroturfed, and I've seen a lot of influencers on Twitter. I don't even know. I don't want to say Trump, but I know I've seen some, prominent people, acting like this is all just, it's all George Soros. It's all Hamas groups. It's all this and that. I don't know if all of that's true, but I think they have absolutely infiltrated, and they're going to continue to do that. So
I would say the leadership these are professional agitators, Blake. Barack Hussein Obama was a community organizer, aka community agitator.
But this is May. These have been going on for a while. I don't think from the very beginning that any of these protests were just all from the very beginning, just astroturfed.
Oh my! I disagree 100%. I would disagree 100%.
This whole thing. So the college kids are just minding their own business, even though we've seen this stuff before, whether they're protesting the war or the Gulf War or the Vietnam War or what other war or conflict that they've been doing for decades. But you think this one, there was no leadership, and then all of a sudden...
no, I'm saying the opposite. No. Maybe we're saying the same thing then. No. What I was getting at is there's a professional agitator group. There's a professional protester group. There's a professional network of Antifa, BLM, Hamas, Palestine. Put your different hats on, your different facial garb, your different slogans, your different... It's the same group of people who are professionally outraged, professional shakedown artists, professional agitators, professional rioters, professional rabble rousers. People didn't like the hippies in the 60s, 70s. Now, maybe they were right about not having a draft, and maybe they were right, but they weren't widely liked. The tactics, the techniques, the what they were and what they were doing. Yeah, some of the policies are something that in hindsight, you're like, yeah, I mean, I agree with the point, but I don't agree with what was happening to take you to there. So no, I don't think this was organic. The puppet strings were pulled by people to coordinate this at once, just like how 6 states magically paused their count on election night in 2020. Magically, all the colleges, they have 2 bastions. With the BLM riots, it was, let's go to the blue cities. Let's go to the deepest blue areas and just burn it. 18 or 20 some people were killed in the BLM riots of 2020. And what they're doing now, they went to the other deepest blue places, a college campus, a university campus, hotbed of radical Marxist indoctrination. So I think it was completely steered by the same professional protester class, the professional.
Well, they'll eventually work their way in. Yeah,
sure.
It's exactly like Occupy was mixed of different groups. And then all of a sudden, the Democrats got a foothold and then started chasing everybody out. And then once it was just them, then Occupy went away.
But there's a good point here, because if we're trying to figure out who's calling the shots, is this Soros? Is it the Atlantic Council? Which of the groups that Soros funds, like specifically? Because I shared one with, I don't think I shared it to you, but I put it on Twitter about Act Blue. All of this pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine, anti-Israel stuff, however you want to define it. The money is now being routed right through Think Blue. It's all going into the Democratic campaign, just like it did in BLM days. It's all a farce. It's all a sham. It's a shell game. Oh, Black lives do matter. You know what, honey? We haven't suffered like the Black lives that matter. Let's write a check. Yeah, no, not 100. Let's do 1,000. We need to. It's our karmic debt that someone who's not us did something to someone who's not them, so we should pay for that. And it goes to the DNC. Or it goes to the founders so they can get a $7 million mansion in Malibu, get 3 houses on the coast. They don't live in black neighborhoods. The founders of BLM, no, they live in the ritzy, all-white, gated communities. But it's all just a money laundering scam. Of course, good people get caught up in this. Of course, people are. I heard it described that most of the people and the voices that you're seeing now, maybe not recently with UCLA standing up and fighting back once they knocked a Jewish girl unconscious, they went on the offense and said we've had enough, and they attacked them. But a lot of this stuff, it's coming in a way that you're kind of seeing a lot of females there. A lot of females this day and age are not having kids, not having families. And where family, your biological urges to create your own and raise your own and have a family and a purpose, a lot of these angry girls protesting on campus, they're finding their purpose in this. Instead of raising my own, I'm going to raise this movement. I'm going to raise my voice over here. And they've kind of taken that energy and put it into another spot. And by the way, that's the only energy keeping the Democratic Party on life support at this point. The only people foolish enough to fall for this, it's a certain demographic of weak men and angry liberal women who are letting the Democrats run roughshod on the country. They don't give a damn. They get wrapped up in the emotions of it. So that's a deep theory on it. I don't know if you have thoughts.
Yeah, it's a theory. It's a theory because we know somebody who's been at several of these protests, and they might contradict your statements there. And that a lot of these people, they're not really pro-Democrat necessarily. A lot of them are just pro-peace, and they're critical of Israel, but they're also critical of Joe Biden.
And let me pull that up because that's
different factions come together. Well, I'll pull this up. There's problems on both sides. Yeah, it's all.
Hold on, real quick. I keep your screen open. Let me read Jocelyn's comment, then put the next one up about Joe Biden and Israel. But Jocelyn says last Tuesday, mainstream media reported that of the 77 students arrested, 52 of the 77 were not associated with the campus and were not students. Right, Brian? Paid provocateurs up to $8,000 per protester. And you do raise a good point. I was alluding to this a few minutes ago. But yeah, Joe Biden, could he lose the election because of his support for Israel? He's painted himself into a corner where the only thing, there were fine people on both sides. You remember that lie? They tried to frame Trump saying Nazis are good, which he never did. But yeah, there's fine people on both sides. You had the people standing up against the terrorists on campus, and you had the terrorists on campus. They're both going, fuck Joe Biden. Then the other side would say, fuck Joe Biden. So they both hate Biden, which how could that possibly be helpful for the Democrat Party? I take that point. A lot of this is so convoluted. It's hard to understand who benefits, follow what money, who's pulling the strings. It's weird.
Yeah, no, it's a much more complicated issue than people get, and it can vary campus to campus. So depending on the makeup of the crowd and where their views are. But since we're mentioning this comment, here is Michael Moore. And he's fearing that Biden could lose the election due to his support for Israel. So Michael Moore correctly predicted Trump's victory in 2016. Big deal. Has warned Biden that he faces a very real prospect of losing due to his support for Israel. And maybe that's also convoluted because, it's not necessarily against Israel. I'm not against Israel per se, but I am against Netanyahu and what I think is an extremist leadership there.
And when you say that, like who they're against and who they're for, I'm just dying to see some of these colleges protesting actively against Hamas. Against Hamas. Are there any? Fine. I haven't shared a single. It hasn't caught my eye. That's not to say it hasn't happened. But where is that energy against the people that started the war? That the people are complaining too many innocents are dying in the war. That who started? That Hamas started. Okay, so why aren't you rallying to get Hamas out? I don't know, because Israel. I don't think that's intellectual.
Well, hey, Israel had the high ground until they started retaliating too much. And once they started committing war crimes and killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians, they lost the narrative. They lost their support. So
let's talk about this frat brother here.
There's good and bad things on, huh? I know I keep jumping all these.
Because this was the story from, I believe this was UCLA. The terrorists knocked out a Jewish girl, and then there was like a mob of defenders of America that came in and attacked the people that were occupying their campus and that were assaulting their students. So they fought back and defended the flag and got into some fights. And it's like, I don't like seeing violence per se, but like, man, seeing some of these people finally stand up, it's like you're gonna see the Kyle Rittenhouse effect. If none of the adults in the police force are gonna maintain control from the terrorists who are burning buildings and killing people in the BLM riots or on campuses, they knock the girl unconscious. Well, this is exactly what you're going to get. Shake it up, get the scorpion and the tarantula fighting each other, just like Charlottesville. But this UCLA thing got real interesting real quick.
Right, and to be fair, there's troublemakers on both sides. It's not just a one side thing. But yes, there's issues to have. I want to see people peacefully protesting and people getting more sophisticated on this issue. Right, they should be just as much against Hamas as they are with the Bibi regime. I would agree. So yes, and they were taking down the flag. I don't agree with that either. Yes, you don't take down the United States flag and try to replace it with a Palestinian flag. That's just wrong. We're going to celebrate our country because we have that right and freedom of speech. But that's because we're under the United States. Because if we were in Palestine, they probably wouldn't accept that. That probably wouldn't go over well over there. And it probably wouldn't go over very well in Israel either. So what do we have? And of course, yes, there was a girl that was attacked, Jewish girl, and then there was a retaliation. They were screaming second Nakba, which is part of it's going back into 1948 with the civil war that they had, the Arab-Israeli war, as they were attacking this compound, firing fireworks, and it was some ugly scenes.
Do you have is there a clip you wanted to play from these? Because I've watched a bunch. It was I was trying to figure out who's who and who's on what side. That article though, what's the title? At the very top it says Zionist mob. It's right. So slanted and
well, I hear you. I'm trying to put both sides up, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to play a brief clip of some of the battle there, but or if not, I mean, we've probably seen it at this point. It's on. I've definitely put it on X at American_media_ some of these, but yeah, seeing UCLA stand up for itself was. I mean, is that a promising sign, or is that disheartening that the adults in the room can't keep the peace? So it's gonna be. You can call them vigilante, but that once again. Like calling them a Zionist mob or vigilante. I don't know. How about people that aren't putting up with your shit?
Right, but it's also
who's starting shit. It's the Hamas supporters, the Palestine supporters, the anti-Israel folks. They're the ones starting the violence. They're the one that knocked the girl unconscious. Oh, now they're getting pushback. Oh, they got hit with the stick. Oh my gosh, it's a war crime. It's like, well, no, you started shit and now you're finding out. It's that fuck around, find out graph where the more you mess around,
I know. Right. Okay.
It's gonna be.
Right. So you want the campus protesters to be more sophisticated and to go after Hamas, but you see a lot of people on the right wing who are trying to make everybody out there seem like they are pro-Hamas, and they aren't mentioning a damn thing about Israel and some of the atrocities they're responsible for. So that's why I have an issue. It's kind of a one-sided. Yes, both sides need to come together.
I try to be careful saying atrocities and genocide and war crime. All propaganda from Palestine, all propaganda coming from the Hamas people. We don't know what's actually happening on the ground. We get reports, and almost every report we get is fake because almost every report in war is fake.
Right.
It's almost like why they didn't want WikiLeaks releasing information, because there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in any war, a lot of collateral damage, even sometimes intentionally going after innocent people, because war is hell. It's awful.
Yeah, have you seen some of the aftermath of Gaza? Have you seen that? And we showed you that last time the university getting blown up from Israel.
And once again,
there's been a lot of things.
Building, yes.
Hospitals,
is a
food workers,
or?
Right? Aid workers. Yes, we covered a lot of that stuff, Brian. Those are war crimes.
Well, but there's also the conversation of what building was that? Was that building a terrorist stronghold? Was that building a hospital? Was that building a school?
It's easy to say after the fact
of Hamas and Palestine that Israel's a demon. Israel's, they're killing all the innocent people.
Right. So every time they blow up a hospital or a church or a refugee camp or food places, then it's well, it must have been a Hamas headquarters. Yeah, they were hiding out there. So now we didn't do anything wrong. No.
I mean, but how could we be sophisticated enough to know the difference? That's the only point I'm making. How could we be sophisticated enough to understand all of what's happening in the tunnels with the people there?
Right. That's why there needs to be an investigation. There needs to be a ceasefire. I'm all in favor of having the International Criminal Court and whoever and the rest of the world and say, hey, let's take a look at this before we escalate things any further. How did this happen and what's going on? And if there's war crimes, then they should be investigating all of that as well. So I think, regardless of they're inflating the death count numbers, there is a lot of carnage there. There's probably at the minimum, Brian, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, I would say at minimum, probably 20,000, minimum 20,000 people killed. I don't know how many injured on top of that while people are starving out there. Like it's a disaster.
Oh, a disaster indeed. It sucks.
And most of those people were innocent. They were not Hamas militants. But anyway,
I don't know the number of people that launched the attack that started the war. I don't know how many. Like, yes, 20,000 to how many 100 people carried out the attacks. 1,000. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of good people are suffering because of the actions of Hamas, and there's zero energy on campus yelling at Hamas to root them out by the balls and string them up in a public court and make them
right. But why there's not a lot
penalty for starting a war that caused so much collateral damage. None of that energy. It's just how dare you retaliate from getting murdered? I don't know.
Okay, so where are the people on the other side saying, yeah, Israel has done some awful shit. That's bad too.
Yeah, that's all we're hearing. That's all we hear on campus.
Okay, well, what about the people that are, so you want that, but you don't want to admit that Israel has maybe did some bad things too?
I didn't.
A lot of people are getting
words in my mouth. Talk about the ICC and the arrest.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So how are you they're supposed to come together and say against Hamas, but you're not going to say anything about, oh yeah, it looks like Netanyahu's did some awful shit. Like maybe the IDF got carried away. Maybe they did commit some war crimes. Well,
war crime to me is very similar to hearing hate crime.
Basically, they can do anything they want because they got attacked first. That's kind of where you're kind of going with that.
Well, I'm very partial to self-defense. I don't like people sitting around and getting butchered, and I want maximum retribution against the monsters that came out of nowhere and ruined the lives of 1,200 families, for example, in that case, or 3,000 families on 9/11. I hate watching innocent people get caught up in nonsense, and I want maximum retribution against the monsters that did it. Now, are the monsters Bush Cheney? Are the monsters the CIA? Are the monsters Hamas? Are the monsters Bibi? Are the monsters the IDF? I mean, that's an argument. That's a conversation that I can get behind. I can understand who actually was responsible for 9/11. Who was actually responsible for 10/7?
Take a look at the guy in that picture, and you'll probably have a pretty good idea. Yes, Mr. Yes, there was WMD's Mr. Israeli Cheney. Yes, the warmonger over there in Israel, who's continued to stay in power after all these years with all the corruption charges. They've been trying to chase him out, and now he's as powerful as ever. But he is allegedly afraid of these ICC arrest warrants. So I'm hoping karma catches up. But, he gets his day in court. If maybe he's innocent, and I'll be happy to take anything back, anything bad that I've said. But I think he's absolutely got some problems, and he should be scared.
Well, it's interesting trying to see a day in court, and you see Trump facing 91 kangaroo court.
Well, this is something different. Now, we're not talking like petty business dealings or.
Trump has the specter of a death penalty hanging over him for one of the indictments. Oh yeah, it's that level. It's that level. They're trying to kill him. I believe one of the charges, I think espionage got wrapped up into the Mar-a-Lago case, literally with a death penalty. I don't know where it shook out if that's still the case, but yeah, they want to do that. That's and how well do you? I don't know who the ICC is. I don't know if they're are they as trustworthy as the UN?
That's the Hague. That's the International Criminal Court.
Well, I mean, so the WHO and this WHO and the not the New World Order. What I just say? NATO. Some of these groups used to have a high esteem and held in high regard, but we found out that they're not good at all. I'm not familiar with.
Do you think Netanyahu should be above the ICC? That he's above, being you think that they're corrupt and that they don't deserve to have
no, I don't. I'm just saying I don't know who the ICC. I don't know who the players are and what they're about. I know they don't recognize them, but I don't know. It's interesting. So they've put arrest.
Well, they went after all the Nazis for war crimes back in the old days, right?
And so they've put arrest warrants out.
Serious people, right?
Do they have the power to arrest people? Do they have the power to overthrow a nation? Like what authority do they have? Like, I don't even know where they're based. Like,
well, they're challenging the authority, right? So we could get into this. Yeah, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has confessed to U.S. President Joe Biden, allegedly, that he fears the arrest warrants set to be issued by the ICC against him over genocide. He had 2 senior Israeli officials disclose the development to Axios, adding that it happened during an April 28th phone conversation between Netanyahu and Joe Biden. And according to the two, Netanyahu expressed his concern about the arrest warrants during the call. Because of this, the longest-serving Israeli prime minister asked Biden to help prevent the issuance of the warrants. So, Israeli officials have grown increasingly concerned that the ICC is preparing to issue these arrest warrants. And that's according to what IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Or these are other arrest warrants for these guys too. So there's 3 of them that they want to check out. Arrest him, investigate him. So a spokesman, let's see, with the White House National Security Council declined to comment on the call. They said, however, that ICC has no jurisdiction in this situation, and we do not support this investigation. So, and Tel Aviv, of course, has denounced it. So, but I mean, yeah, you wouldn't want the investigators taking a look. But I mean, if he's got nothing to hide, he should be happy to show and clear his name. But I think he's absolutely fearful, and he should be. They hung a lot of Nazis at the Hague. And he doesn't want to be, the modern face. And they're going to, the people are going to look back someday and they're going to say, yes, all of these people tried for war crimes, and Bibi Netanyahu, the monster that he was, getting his day. I don't know. So justice served, we shall see.
Got a question on this one. And this one could have really been at the top of the list in today's stack. It was one of the top 3, and it kind of got
number shuffled. 1, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to run a poll on this. But okay. So on the ICC, just that there's the update that's happening, right? Is there any more you have on that?
Yeah, this is a legit thing. So I mean, there's some serious stuff. So if Fox News wants to cover, I mean, they actually did cover that. But if they were being honest with their audience and we're getting a full perspective, sure, let's let the campus kids condemn Hamas, but let's also call for an investigation by the ICC or anybody, an investigation of 10/7, and for an acknowledgement of some of the wrongdoings that Israel has been a part of. That would be fair.
All right. Well, this part is just atrocious, backward, terrifying, antithetical to the United States way of life. Talk about this one, Blake. Agree or disagree that criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism and should be banned in the United States?
This is completely against, and there's absolutely reasons. The problem with a lot of people on the Israeli payroll, or they're part of these Israel lobby, is gotten their hooks a little too far into this country. And we should be questioning anybody who supports this. And I'm curious to see how Ted Cruz is going to respond to this, because it's already passed the House, so it's going to go into the Senate. But I mean, he's one of the biggest contributors. He gets a lot of money. I think he's got over 1.3 million from the Israel lobby that I'm aware of. So,
you're talking about Rand Paul there?
Ted Cruz. Not
Ted
Rand
Cruz.
Paul.
Sorry,
I don't know how much money Rand Paul gets, but a lot of these politicians do get big bucks to influence their opinions on this matter. And this is disturbing. This has no reason. they're going overboard with this one. I don't think anybody should like this. And it's disturbing that our Congress is doing another very unpopular thing, and they're cracking down on free speech, which goes to the extreme where it could actually have, I mean, we could be censoring the Bible if we were going to actually pass this legislation, which is nuts. So Republicans in Congress pushing legislation that would formally adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism as a basis for prosecuting federal anti-discrimination statutes, at a move that critics say provides no actual relief for terrorized Jewish students and infringes on the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So we've had, well, this one, Islamists and radical leftists have been rioting on college campuses in support of the terrorist organization Hamas, but this is out of the Federalist. So, Brian, I'm looking at both sides here. The Federalist is very one-sided on one issue, and of course, we have Information Liberation, which sees things on the other side. So, yes, what we do know, people have been brutally slaughtered on both sides. But at least maybe we can all agree that passing some of this crazy legislation is not a good idea. We'll just switch over here to some tweets here from Glenn Greenwald saying, I think Americans would be horrified to learn what they are now legally banned by Congress from expressing. That's to saying, if you say somebody is more loyal to Israel than the U.S., so if I said that to, say, Mark Levin or little Benny Boy, Ben Shapiro,
Which
that
you
would
have.
be criminalized. Yes, I have, and I still will as long as I can. We've got criticizing Israel in a way that Congress thinks is unfair. What could that mean? Or comparing Israeli war crimes to the Nazis. And he's quote tweeting this from Cenk Uygur, who says the House anti-Semitism bill is the most unconstitutional bill I've ever seen. It basically makes criticism of Israel illegal in America, and the House just passed it, 320 to 91. So not one mainstream media article mentions that AIPAC spending $100 million to buy off politicians might be relevant in the decision-making. But to be fair, if the reporters had mentioned the role of AIPAC, they might be arrested under the new law. Also, we can criticize America any way we like, on right or left, but if we criticize Israel, we might be arrested. In fact, if this bill passes, Cenk himself might get arrested for this tweet where he is just stating the facts. What else? How about from Stu Peters? The anti-Semitism law that just passed in the House does not just make it illegal to criticize Jews, it also makes it illegal to preach the gospel. Oh, and I thought I don't have the, Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson. But basically, the House of Representatives just voted to make Christianity illegal in America. Let that sink in. Yeah, it's going to be a problem for the Bible, the New Testament.
Yeah, by the way, real quick, I'm looking here. A number of times that the Bible says the Jews wanted to kill Jesus. You got Matthew 6 times, Mark 3 times, Luke 3 times, and John, I don't know, I'm losing track, maybe 10 times. So discussing that would theoretically make it illegal. Now I'm actually having a side conversation. I think it may. I'm trying to glean a little bit of insight there. It's like, did the Romans kill Jesus? Did the Jews kill Jesus? Was it a team effort? Like, are they both responsible? Like, well, he went into the store and committed the robbery where the killing occurred, but he only drove the getaway car. It's like, yeah, you're both punished the same. Weren't they both kind of playing a role in this? And trying to make the Bible illegal makes it a very strange set of circumstances, as discussed by Paul Joseph Watson here. Let me play you a clip of this as Blake is back. Blake, I don't know if you had a chance to watch Paul Joseph Watson, but I want to just kind of let him cook for a second here, because nobody does it better, in my opinion, at breaking these things down like him. But yeah, he kind of gets into this same exact topic.
Did the U.S. Congress actually just pass criticism of Israel? Even reading Bible passages, is this the most degrading egregious violation of the First Amendment we've ever witnessed. It's called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. But how does it define anti-Semitism? Surely with a law of this magnitude, it would tell you in the actual bill, right? It doesn't tell you in the actual bill. Instead, it defers to definitions created by a group called the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And this is where it gets interesting. According to their definitions, anti-Semitism includes applying Israel to behave in a way not expected from other democratic nations, and comparing Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Right.
That's so interesting, Blake, because it seems like all the Democrats do is call Republicans Nazis. Why can they do it, but we can't? Why can the Democrats call Republicans Nazis?
Right. Well, the right has been calling these people all Hamas supporters. That's not true. That's a tiny, tiny minority.
Well, I disagree with that. Hamas runs that country.
Wait.
Nobody voted, but they support that regime. That's why they're not protesting against Hamas. I disagree with you there.
That's not fair, Brian. And we have a source who kind of corrected the record with, a rough numbers, not exact. I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that. I said it was less than 5%. I think that was being generous. They said 1 or 2%. You said it'd be a lot more.
Oh, a lot more.
Actually, literally
over
Hamas.
Yeah.
Well, we tried to make this statement too. We had this little agree to disagree question. Do you think it's the same thing? By labeling all these campus protesters as pro-Hamas, is that the equivalent of all leftists calling Trump supporters Nazis?
And I disagreed because there aren't not like that. There's not a thing. They can't concoct Nazi Trump support. They've been trying for 8 years, but it's very easy to see a country that's dominated by Hamas and almost seemingly zero or very little calling out for the removal of Hamas, zero energy to seize that country back from the violent terrorists that sparked this bloody, awful war. Oh, but they hate their neighbors that they attacked.
I'm not saying the right wing. Right. I'm not saying the right wing calling for Netanyahu and the Likud party to be removed either.
All right, let me continue with
to be at a standoff. Now, if both sides could, come off a little bit, meet together, we could actually get through this thing.
All right, let me continue with PJW.
Right, so criticizing Israel. It gets more disturbing when you learn that the IHRA, the group behind these definitions, has routinely been accused of conflating legitimate criticism of Israel.
So that's a point you've made a lot of times. Legitimate criticism of Israel being conflated with anti-Semitism is some bullshit that needs to stop. You've said that, maybe not those exact words, but
right. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous the way that they try to frame this. So they're manufacturing a lot of this. I don't think it's anti-Semitic, but that's what they're trying to make it sound like. All these people they're pro-Hamas and they hate Israel and they hate the Jews. And I think you also put out there, it's like, oh, if they say, from the river to the sea, all Palestinians meant to be free. And, and you're thinking that means like they want to, exterminate the Jews.
Yeah, it's 1947, erase the state of Israel. It's in the governing charters of Hamas, Hezbollah. Like that's all they want. That's why there will not be a two-state solution. Israel wants that. They have over decades, and Palestinians have always refused it. They've always.
I don't know if that's true. Right.
Like I played that for you. Like 11 times they've been brought to peace negotiations with Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama. Like they've been trying, meeting in not Martha's Vineyard. What's the other one up there? Camp David.
Yeah, they've been trying to make deals
over decades, right. and the Palestinians, the PLO or Hamas. There is no two-state solution. They want Israel wiped off back to 1947. They want them gone, period. There is no negotiation. So it's just, oh, no, they just want innocents to stop. No, they don't. From the river to the sea, shake them off in an intifada. There's fleas on them. Get the fleas off of Northern Africa. That's what or the Middle East, whatever region you're calling that. That's what most of them want. That's what a lot of them want. And that's why it turns violent so often.
Maybe over there, yes, that's what that means. But for the people that were, innocently saying that here, that's not what they intended. We've been over that.
That's a judgment call. I think to innocently
just because they're calling for people to be free does not mean they're calling for exterminating the Jews. Like, no.
All right. PJ continues.
Speech will include claims about Jews killing Jesus. So Bible passages then? What are you talking about? None of that stuff's in the Bible. Yeah. It is though, isn't it? In the letters of Paul, which are regarded by historians as the oldest works in the New Testament, 1 Thessalonians 2:14-15, the Jews who killed the Lord Jesus. Similar claims feature prominently in the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, and specifically within the best known Gospel, Matthew 26:57-68, where the Jewish high priest concludes that Jesus is guilty of blasphemy and asks the Jewish council what the penalty should be. Death. This is all from a Jewish website, by the way. Now, I'm no religious scholar, but this isn't about whether the Romans or the Jews killed Jesus. It's about whether this anti-Semitism bill will outlaw Bible passages.
And Blake, the number of Christians you've complained about this, you've called this particular point out. Why is there such a high percentage of Christians who will blindly always back Israel when, I mean, why? To what end, for what purpose? Is it just the financing and the funding? Is it because it's in Jerusalem and that's Jesus overlap and Jesus was there, so now we're going to root for this country? Is it that it's all been misinterpreted and presented falsely? Like, the why? Why do you think so many Christians just blindly support the ones, the Fox News viewers and stuff?
I don't know. Yeah, it's just like a cult following. There's no independent thought there. They're not expressing that, and they don't want to, stick out from the crowd in the wrong way, I guess. But then they just look like mindless cult followers, where it's like, yeah, Israel can do no wrong, and Israel is our greatest ally. Okay, they're just like they're the NPC characters on the other side.
All right, fair. He continues.
And since their definition of anti-Semitism is claiming that Jews killed Jesus, and since such claims are definitely in the Bible, we can only conclude that yes, it will. A bad day for America's Judeo-Christian values, given that the former is banning key texts from the latter. Oh yeah, and if claims about Jews killing Jesus are set to become hate speech, they might have to ban the Talmud, because it's in there too. In Sanhedrin of the Babylonian Talmud, it says Jesus was put to death by a Jewish court for the crimes of sorcery and sedition. And similar claims also appear in popular Jewish folk literature. Other definitions of...
And by the way, that's in the Talmud, Blake. We've discussed the Talmud and the stuff in there. I mean, it's astonishing.
Well, there's some really wacky shit when you go right back to the ancient texts and the Elohim, and it gets really weird. Yeah.
Maybe it's always been really weird.
Of anti-Semitism, which under this new law will become illegal, include talking about Jewish power interests controlling the media, government, or economy, calling Israel racist. Yes, that.
Blake, is it calling someone racist? We've heard that bandied about on college campuses. Have you ever heard that from some of these the DEI professors that they try to teach kids? Well, black people can't be racist. They don't have, they make an excuse. What do they say? That they don't have institutionalized power or something. And then they just wash their hands and go, no, black people can't be racist. And it's like, yes, they can. This thing here is saying that, you could be punished if you called, Israelis or Jews? I don't know who they're saying. Nobody can say that Jewish people are racist. Well, everybody's racist. Everybody can be racist. Every group has elements of racism in them. Why in the world is one group getting a hall pass on this when clearly, despite what all these Marxist professors try to tell you, every group can and will be racist to different levels? What's so special about this group that they can't be?
Well, no, it's interesting also how things have flipped, how things have changed, because usually over the last several years, it's always been, the leftists calling, the right wing all racists. Racist. But now I'm seeing it's from the right wing. Now they're saying, it's all anti-Jew, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic. And now they're actually trying to pass legislation to make that illegal. It's insane how things have they've flipped again.
I think breaking into college, I think breaking into libraries and buildings and torching the place and destroying the stuff inside is illegal and should be illegal. I think knocking a Jewish lady unconscious at your protest is illegal and should be illegal. I think falsely imprisoning and blocking people from free egress and ingress, I think that is and should always be illegal. No, you should always have your First Amendment right to congregate, to speak your mind, to peacefully protest. peacefully and patriotically, though. We've seen it at UCLA and campuses across the country. This isn't peaceful. It's escalating piece by piece. The more frustrated people are getting with this, the more angry it's becoming. And the limp noodles over at USC that cancel their commencement instead of gaining some damn law and order on their friggin' campus. Yeah, we got a problem there with that. But this is just insane to claim that there's a specific group of people on Earth who can't be racist.
That's actually in there. And accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nation.
Blake, why would that be illegal? Like you said, where does your allegiance lie? I mean, anyone with dual citizenship or who wears the circle hat on the back of their head like Ben Shapiro and Prager, you could go down the list of a bunch of people you question where their loyalties lie. Ask Ilhan Omar. Is her allegiance to the United States of America or whatever the hell she's into? What about the rest of the squad? What's their allegiance? I mean, these are people that have found a way to infiltrate the United States government, and they're pushing awful policies. I don't know here.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's all fair game.
It's all fair game, and it needs to be protected. I don't get how this can pass muster, and I don't get so where is this right now? That this passed the House overwhelmingly, but now it's going to the Senate, and the Senate is controlled by Democrats, but the Democrats don't like Jews, or at least they don't like Bibi, or at least they do, but they don't, but they like the money, but they want to support the policy. But Obama's pulling the puppet strings of Biden, and Obama doesn't like Jews because he studied Islam, and he went to Indonesia and the Little Red Schoolhouse and the Marxist in California on the West Coast. I'm having a hard time following the bouncing ball to figure out who's pulling for what at what point here. Are you having this sensation too? I'm trying to play it out. It gets a little more confusing. Every layer I pull back on the onion, it makes my eyes water just a little bit more.
Well, this is where I'm going to be very excited to see how does Chuck Schumer vote? How does Ted Cruz vote?
Good point.
Well, no, it's Chucky Schumer versus Ted Cruz, and I like Ted Cruz. But who is he going to go for if he's taking that big money from the Israel lobby? So does Chucky Schumer. So does I think Bob Menendez. There's people on both sides of the aisle that take a lot of money. Will they go against the First Amendment of the Constitution to protect this and make this outrageous law that can be used against anybody? No, it's going to be weaponized against people. Just for doing simple, normal speech.
Instantly weaponized. It's just being demonized unfairly for 8 years straight for being loosely or directly affiliated with Trump. You can obviously see and empathize with just how far they're willing to go to use any one of these semi-vague or perhaps it's written for TikTok, but it could turn into going after X. This might be aimed one place, but it could go after all of us. Just the fact that this has even gotten to this point is terrifying because it's completely antithetical to the United States governing documents. It's like they say about Sharia law that cannot compute on American soil because the basic Bill of Rights does not allow for that mindset, for that governing structure. It just does not compute. It cannot function. There is no commingling of that mentality and of that mindset and of that rule structure. They're incompatible. And so this stuff, it boggles my mind. I've seen this stuff in Ireland and Sweden and Great Britain and Australia. You see it happening in these other countries, Canada. You see stupid stuff happening, but to see it come to the shores of the United States, it's terrifying.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
All of that will be outlawed. It will be illegal to say it in America. And you won't just get a slap on the wrist. You'll be federally prosecuted. Businesses and educational institutions will be hit with crippling sanctions. This is literally the imposition of European-style hate speech laws in the United States.
Those hate speech laws, Blake. I mean, how many times have we done shows and we're talking about one of those nations that do something goofy with hate speech, and it's like we hate it, we're calling attention to it, but like, oh God, well, at least that's not happening here. And now it's happening here. And it seems like some of the Republicans that seem to usually support freedom, they've gone on the other side of the issue. It's bewildering. It's really strange.
Yeah, it shows you the money and the power behind Israel, unfortunately. And so now they're trying to outlaw that. And it's amazing that they will sell us all out for that. It's totally not worth it.
Yeah, have they projected, Blake? Do you know? Have they projected what it's likely? And once again, these are all just guesses, prognostications, hypotheses, of course. But have they guessed? Have they taken like a preliminary count to see, will it easily pass in the Senate? Will it be defeated? Is it a big question mark? Nobody knows. I don't know what people are betting on at this point.
I don't know. I'm staggering. Was it 300 something to 91? I mean,
it wasn't even close.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of faith in this. And
well, we had a good run, buddy. We had a good run.
Well, I can't circumvent the Constitution. Let's see what I want to see Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and see where they really what happens. It's going to be wow. Yeah, it should have been canceled by the same amount. They should have been, nope, sorry, this is still, we celebrate freedom of speech here. But they're basically pulling the plug on our country. The United States experiment is effectively over if this thing goes through.
Yeah, I can't say I've really seriously considered becoming a refugee and fleeing to a non-shithole country. But the United States is quickly devolving into a shithole country. And, I left Los Angeles because it devolved into a shithole city. In a shithole state. I mean, one of the most gorgeous places on earth. They found a way to screw it up, to make it unsafe, to make it dirty, to make it overly expensive, and it just insane. I don't know where there is to flee to. At some point, you just got to stay where you are and put your feet in the ground. And all right, here's my line in the sand. I'm just here I am. But my God, there's not much of an America left to celebrate if this does continue. Let me just get another moment or two from Paul Joseph Watts. I'll stop when he hits his ad in a moment here. Then we can wrap it up with Daily Wire stuff. Since he's
why so many conservatives are up in arms about it. It's a question I've heard so many times before.
Okay, I think he goes into it right there. So I will stop that clip and just kind of bounce over to what we were just talking about as we wrap up today.
Well, let's let me throw two more quick notes here that I want to run through. We got from Jake Shields here. The past 2 weeks, Congress is making anti-Semitism illegal. They've demanded anti-Israel protesters be arrested, ban TikTok at Israel's request. This is Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL. They're giving $100 billion to Israel and Ukraine for war, approved warrantless spying on Americans, approved $3.5 billion aid for illegal immigrants, done nothing for the American people. It's become clear they are not here to serve us. And I do also want to play a quick clip from Judge Napolitano and Gerald Celente, a couple of my favorite patriots here. And Gerald is a little more biased on this issue. He says, if we can't criticize an apartheid government engaged in an ongoing genocide, then freedom of speech is dead in the United States. It's a 54-second clip. Let's roll.
As are, it's funny, at Columbia University, the overwhelming majority of the demonstrators against the Netanyahu government are students that are Jewish. I mean, this is
one of the other things you won't hear from the right wing. The amount of actual Jewish people that are on these campuses who are against Netanyahu and Israel.
Just crazy. But look, the Israeli government,
it'd be like if I was in if I went to college in a different country and I decided to speak out against Bush-Cheney regime and the BS-WMDs and going into Afghanistan and all of that, it would be similar to that. It's crazy, but this is one thing that's also it's a very important fact for people to understand. This is a complicated issue.
Crazy, but look, the Israeli government has been attempting to paint its adversaries with the brush of anti-Semitism since 1948. We all know they're not Semites. Anti-Semitism is a made-up word that they made up. What they claim it's hatred of the Jews. It's not hatred of the Jews. It's a hatred of the policies of a government. And if we can't
exactly, Brian, and I want to say I've said that many times. I don't care.
I disagree. I think it's a mixture. I don't think you can make a sweeping statement that the people saying things and doing things, they forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. They know damn well what they're doing. And there's a lot of just seething Jew rage that's in this. I get what Andrew's saying and what you're saying. Yes, there are a percentage of people participating in this who feel that way and have that at their core belief. And there is an equal and probably larger percentage of people who just hate Israel, who just hate the Jews, who hate little Satan, big Satan. And in some ways, rightfully so, as they put out there in their words, for meddling in so many other countries, for seizing land, for starting an empire, nation building, overthrowing Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. Go down the list. How many have been overthrown by the United States? Like, there's a lot of opinions on this, like abortion. I get both sides of the argument. I kind of have my personal opinion. I've settled somewhere in the middle if you can be wishy-washy on that. But there are several viewpoints that can be valid and concurrent. So I don't think it's one or the other. These are just people that want war crimes and genocide to stop. Well, some, yes. And there are some that just will not stop until they're removed. So, I mean, there's no other way around it. There's a mixture of these different.
All right. Well, there's one Jewish country in the world, but there's a religious aspect, and then there's the governmental aspect, and they're not necessarily the same thing.
Well, and the same with Sharia law in Islamic countries. Sometimes it's Sharia light, sometimes it's hardcore. Yeah.
Right. So Sharia law gets a bad name. In the strictest interpretations, it's pretty nasty stuff. But what would happen if we were, like some of like James Carville thinks we're going to be under a religious theocracy if Trump wins. But if we actually were under a religious theocracy and we were all like Southern Baptists, then yeah, that would be pretty awful. That would just be as bad as Sharia law, probably.
All right. You want to wrap up the judge here?
Okay.
Articulate our adversity to the policies of a government, particularly a government that is an apartheid government engaged in genocide. If we can't condemn that, then there's no freedom of speech left in America.
Okay, that's what he had to say. So
and he's got a right to go on a college campus and not block the walkways and not knock Jewish girls unconscious and not set fires, not break into buildings, not vandalize, not terrorize. You got a right to be on the grass and have your speech and do your thing and sing your songs and play your bongos. But you can't do all the other shit that they always do when the limp noodles in the blue cities or the blue universities, when they take zero control and it spirals into Chopper Chaz, it spirals into 20 deaths across the BLM riots of 2020, the anti-Trump riots fomented by the Democrat Party that time. Some of them are doing it again, although half of them, it's going to cost them politically because now they hate the Democrat. It's really convoluted, Blake. It's really strange, but criticism is the cornerstone of America. Criticism is the cornerstone of America. And fuck anybody who's going to try to tell us that you can't say what you're thinking. Now, calling, really pushing for violent acts and organizing violent acts and criminal activity, that steps out of the realm of fair criticism. That steps out of the realm of protected speech. Miss me with that hate speech shit. Every group is hated by other groups. Oh, but only certain groups. Just like, you can't criticize I don't know, an Israeli or a Jewish person of being racist, just like you can't accuse a black person of being racist. Bullshit. Oh, there's a hate crime. Well, what? It's only when white people are involved in something against somebody else? Or is it when somebody else is going after a white person? Well, if it's not equal, then it's not real. So just some of these words, some of the verbiage just kind of miss me with it. I'm so over it, and it's powerful and it's manipulative and it works sometimes. And it's kind of why I hate it so much, and I will keep calling it out. So, here's the one. Yeah, this is a good one, Blake. The chant.
Yeah, so it's interesting that the two sides do have something that they can agree on here. And so, from the way I'm hearing things, is a lot of these protesters are not, in fact, your typical leftists that are going to be Biden supporters. They're actually very angry at Joe Biden because they call him, Genocide Joe. And he's providing weapons to Israel to kill, in their mind, innocent Palestinians. So, but yes, we found something, a moment of unity in Alabama when both sides agreed they don't like Joe Biden. Here we go.
Fine people on both sides. That warms the heart.
It does.
That really does warm the heart. Blake, when you watched the UCLA pushback, we'll call it, did that warm your heart a little bit, even though you seem to be pro-Palestine in this?
No, I'm not. I don't want to pick on either side. I just want, I just want peace, and I want both sides to admit that there's, issues with both sides. Yeah, if people are obstructing speech or attacking some girl or restricting movement, that's not good. Or trying to remove a U.S. flag and putting up a Palestinian. I don't agree with any of that. But then when the other, when there's a bunch of, pro-Israel people and they're going to go in there and call it the second revolution or whatever and start, causing violence over there as well, that's not good either. So I don't know. I don't really have a particular side.
It's just one of them is starting it. One of them is starting it antagonistically, and the other is pushing back against it. Retaliating against
campus to campus, right? And so I get it. People are going to retaliate if there's violence committed. If somebody crosses the line, somebody else has a right to stand up and do something. Yeah, but you don't want things to escalate too far, or for things to be too one-sided. But it's complicated. But yes, I'm homeless on these issues, politically homeless. I don't fit in with any particular group. But I did always kind of want I was kind of sort of hoping that maybe at some point, maybe Brian, you and I could get hired at the Daily Wire. It's a good job. It's over in Nashville. It pays well. It's not too far. I would be willing to relocate to go over there. I always thought, Jeremy Boring seemed like a cool boss. Yes, great benefits. Live in Nashville. They also have, good catered lunches. I've looked at, applying there a few times, but then I'm like, oh my God, what would I have to do? Would I have to be like an associate producer for Ben Shapiro? And I can't stand that little, I don't like, I've never been a big fan of him. So I was like my nemesis.
I was going to say, let's go ahead and put the resume in, but I don't know. After that last comment, maybe we burned the bridge.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they're going to clean up their shit, or maybe they're going to be gone because they've destroyed their credibility. Well, I was on their side with the whole Crowder saga, but I've never trusted Shapiro, and to me they just seem to like they're infiltrated there. So, but now
let's ask a question, Blake. Who calls the shots at Daily Wire? Is it Shapiro? Is it
Boring?
Well, somebody else?
Probably both. Because Ben Shapiro
is somebody has to hold the steering wheel. End of the day, if it came down to some irreconcilable difference, I'd be curious.
Man. I think Shapiro and Boring are both like, I don't know which one is the top at the end of the day, but those two are probably 80% of the company. I could be wrong.
Do you think? Well, I heard they had massive financial backers, like maybe controlling interest. Maybe north of 51% is financial backers that are not either of them. So they don't run it. They're just the figureheads, kind of like how Joe Biden doesn't run the country. He's just the figurehead for Obama's henchmen in Obama's third term. But yeah, I just kind of wonder if the Daily Wire might be looking to have some people. Look, we have fair conversations. We don't appreciate. We don't agree on all of them. But God damn it, that's the point of agree to disagree. We can disagree without becoming disagreeable. We can have conversations and, be willing to admit, I don't know every single facet of geopolitics. I don't know every single facet of ancient Babylonian and Jerusalem, Abrahamic religions and the tribal conquests and stuff. Nobody's an expert, but we try to have fair conversations. We try to work in the viewers into it, and maybe the Daily Wire might be interested in having a show that will provide a little bit of back and forth. And it might get a little uncomfortable, it might get a little undicey, but like Jocelyn says, she loves tuning in to hear us back and forth and kind of hash some of this stuff out, even when like Ken said, blood pressure, Brian, blood pressure during the Tuesday show. I was kind of railing against the COVID stuff where they hid perfectly viable therapeutic options for a myriad of reasons. But yeah, that is enough to raise the blood pressure. But yeah, the Daily Wire is scared of Candace Owens exposing Ben Shapiro. Blake, do you agree or disagree? I really haven't heard much from Candace in the past couple weeks, maybe a couple months. But yeah, even Matt Walsh, I just watched something that he might be, maybe it was Paul Joseph Watson at the end of that clip. It's a good one. I won't play you the whole 8 minutes, but check it out. I think it's on X, Paul Joseph Watson, that video we just shared. But I think he said Matt Walsh, maybe hoping Candace doesn't close that door fully so he can bounce out too. I don't know. It's getting really dicey over there for sure.
Yeah, they're running into some big problems, and it's really a lot of it amounts to this Israel issue. Yeah, and of course, Ben Shapiro. I don't know if he's he could be. I think a lot of people have criticized him for being Israel first, and that's question his loyalty. And they've had Bibi Netanyahu has been in there at the Daily Wire headquarters. They've had with Jordan Peterson. They're yucking it up, having a little dinner. Perhaps Israeli intelligence. I don't know exactly what's the story back there, but Candace Owens is out, and apparently she's had a gag order on her. She has been calling for a debate, so I don't exactly know all the details, but this has been a breaking story. Daily Wire, huh?
A gag order.
Yeah, so the Daily Wire secretly sought and obtained a gag order against Candace Owens while it publicly negotiated a debate between her and Ben Shapiro. And as Glenn Greenwald has written, Candace Owens publicly invited former Daily Wire colleague Ben Shapiro to debate about Israel and the current definition of anti-Semitism. And it was Owens' criticisms of the U.S. financing of Israel and her criticisms of Israel's war on Gaza that caused her departure from the Daily Wire. But the debate was never going to happen, and that is because the Daily Wire, in secret and unbeknownst to its readers, sought a gag order to be placed on Owens after she had called for a debate. And they did this under the cover of secrecy before a private arbitrator at exactly the same time that they were claiming in public that they wanted this debate. And they were even negotiating the terms with her.
So it was it was all a bad faith negotiation.
According to this report, yes.
And might I add the parallels between literally every Palestinian negotiation with Israel since the beginning of 1947-48. Never a good faith negotiation for a two-state solution. They've never wanted to try to bury the hatchet.
All right, that's a side issue, right. Okay, right. Well,
the parallels are.
You get into the debate. You should have a debate with Candace Owens or comedian Dave Smith. And you can tell them that.
The parallels are striking and honest. The Palestinians have never negotiated in good faith. They've never been willing to cede an inch. Their main provision is Israel has to be gone. So that breeds
I would say maybe
it just does.
Okay, well, maybe that's partly. Let's say it's mostly true, and maybe in most of those cases they didn't. But in part of it, I think they felt like they got screwed right away by the United Nations back in 1947, and the United Nations and Israel agreed to a deal to make this settlement and to give up this much land, and Palestine never agreed to that deal. So they always felt like that was bad faith from the beginning, and then when they fought back, Israel fought back harder and then took 80% of the land instead of 50% or however they had it divided. And there's been bad blood ever since. So it does go both ways, but let's just say Israel was in better faith in the negotiations. Cool. But there's also the part where, Netanyahu integrated with perhaps Hamas, and they kind of wanted to kind of sabotage Palestine in a way that they would never be able to. They would never be internationally recognized. They would never be able to have these deals. So there's also some bad faith and some there's more. It's more sophisticated than that.
It is sophisticated. It is nuanced, but at some point, perhaps in that 70 year, I don't know, since the 40s or 30, 70, 80 years, whatever it is. Why can't I do the math? 70, I don't care, whatever it is. At some point, people like you who seem to be just calling for a ceasefire and calling for this to stop, it never does. And at some point, if your neighbor doesn't stop attacking you, you bulldoze the house. At some point, you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. You've attacked me, my parents, my grandparents. I'm done. I've repeatedly offered you to my barbecue. I've brought you. I've tried to have you over for beers. I've been polite. I brought you or whatever, and you just keep attacking me. At some point,
that's okay. That's not exactly. You make it sound like it's a great idea. Like they're being so welcoming. They're hospitable neighbors, and it's not quite like that.
But they have
let a lot of all the supply lines. They control all the resources. It's kind of seen as like an open air prison where everything has to go through, Israel before Palestine can have it. They're not bringing in, building materials or their food. I mean, like they have way too much control over there. And it's not a fair arrangement. So some people would say apartheid, some would say open air prison, whatever. But it's not like some, they're treated equally and they coexist and have barbecues together. That's not the case at all.
No, and a little bit of that was hyperbole. I was just trying to think of like a legitimate neighborly thing I would try if I was having a problem here. But it's at some point though, the sins of my fathers, that wasn't me, and that wasn't you. Can we reach some sort of agreement and be cool? At some point, like that energy. There is none of that energy. There's not enough of that energy to get anything done.
There might be too much damage now. I think the only way that the way that it might be possible is if both governments basically have new elections. They got to get rid of Hamas, but they've also got to get rid of Bibi Netanyahu and the Likud party. And then maybe if you have new elections for both sides, maybe there could be some kind of a peace arrangement. But we can't have one or the other. Both have got to go.
All right. Anything else on this, Candace Owens?
No, I'd love to see this debate, man. I like Candace. She's feisty. She's smart. And I don't like Ben. I'm not a fan of Benny Boy.
You don't?
I know. It's hard to believe. Right.
Hard to believe, of course. All right. I think that's all we got. I don't know if there were any scraps left on the floor, any tabs you had open, or breaking news stuff that crossed the desk while we were doing the show or not. But this is the last chance.
That's good. I think I'm about tapped out.
Awesome.
So we're at the 2.5 hour mark almost. I think that's sufficient.
That's what happens when we allow the hour of Israel every show. It turns into double the show.
Not
That's
necessarily.
why I do try to speed past it sometimes.
We did an hour of Tulsi Gabbard on Joe Rogan.
It was a 6-minute clip, and it's important about all the stuff that got passed while you weren't paying attention. While we're watching idiots on campus acting like morons, this other stuff that's super important. And Tulsi's very articulate about explaining what happened and knowing what Mike Johnson's up to. It's watch the one hand while the other is like, look, there's tents on campus. Look, a girl got knocked unconscious. They're fighting back. It's a flag. Okay, well, what about the real important shit that's going to tear the country apart? What was that one? The Israel bill that's going to the Senate and all the stuff with the FISA warrants and 2 more years of this crap. Like, it's important. So that was a 6-minute clip. That's all. It was important to play. All right, Blake, tell us where we can find you online.
TV's Blake Walley on Twitter would be the best place, or X. And then, of course, the archive will always be on thenextlevelnews.com.
Excellent. Appreciate it, sir. And yeah, thank you for your time. You're going to watch the Kentucky Derby? You got a horse? You going to bet? Throw a dart?
If I have MGM and FanDuel, and if they offer me some juice, I might bet. Because I don't bet on – I'm mostly football, but I do like basketball to some extent. But if they offer me some enhanced bets or a what do they call it, like an insured bet or a second chance bet, like if you lose, you get a second chance to win your money. if they do something like that for the Kentucky Derby, like, hey, place a $10 bet and you'll get a 50% bonus or something. Yeah, if they make it worthwhile, I would. Otherwise, it's interesting, but not that interesting. But I do like betting. Well, it was fun when I worked at, when I was in Vegas and I worked in the sports book and the horse came and then everybody that would crowd in there and would get very excited. That was fun with the energy. And I'm sure it's going to be, it's in your backyard there, Brian. Are you going to go? Because I'm sure it's a huge crowd. I know there's some interesting, it's been going on a long time. Hunter S. Thompson's from Louisville. I know he's done some interesting commentary from the track.
I have a regular in the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. It's a private group on Facebook. We talk sports all day long. So find it, the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. We have a member. He's invited me on multiple occasions. He has tickets. I don't think he was offering me a free ticket, but I said, if you have a ticket, I'll go. But I did run into an old buddy who has a really interesting gathering every Derby day. So we'll see if I watch it here or go participate or partake in something. I know I went to Thurby. Was it last year or the year before? And that's a race that they have on Thursday, the day before the week of Derby. So that would be today. But, once you've been there and done that, it's kind of, your $22 can of, your double can of White Claw or your Oaks drink or your Lily drink, $22. $22.
What's the mint julep go for?
22. I think they were all $22 this year.
Okay.
Someone posted, I'm like, holy shnikes. Maybe I'll just go buy a bottle of something nice around the corner. I'll make my own damn mint juleps. So, yeah. Jocelyn says, got to go do some watering at the garden and the trees. Great show. See you next week. Bye, chat friends. Thank you so much. You're one of our super favorite chat friends. And all of you, we appreciate your comments. Here are the ways to find the New American Media. If you like what the New American Media is doing and you would like to support us by buying a cup of coffee. And by the way, it's been super fun closing the California Corporation and opening it up in the great state of Kentucky. Holy shit, the thousands of dollars in attorneys and nonsense with CPAs involved. It's astonishing. You can't just click a button and just transfer your corporation to another place. No, let's make it stupid expensive. I'm in the middle of that. So if you like what the New American Media is doing and would like to assist in the recuperation of these stupid thousands that are being burned away, go to patreon.com/the New American Media, I believe is how you find it. And you can either buy us a cup of coffee or donate $1,000 a month if you got more money than you have time. We'll try to fight for you. That feels like a Saul Goodman commercial. And where you find us is on X at American_media_, Instagram, the New American Media, Facebook, the New American Media page, and TNAM's The Agree to Disagree Show private group over there. Telegram, we're TNAM. That's the New American Media, TNAM. TNAM and TAM Chat on Telegram. That's our Facebook backup. Rumble.com/the New American Media is our YouTube backup. YouTube is youtube.com/@the New American Media. And Spotify, our podcast, is the Agree to Disagree Show. As you know, I think we're going to do some special episodes tomorrow, a sports show and another show with Adam Boyd. I think these are both happening. As long as Mike's not in the studio again, we'll talk about that later. Truth Social, the New American Media. We're desperately trying to get much of a boost on the 3 new platforms: Truth Social, Spotify for the podcast, and Rumble. Please follow the New American Media in these places, and the Agree to Disagree Show on Spotify there, because we're trying to grow, anticipating that Meta and Google are going to fuck with us this election cycle. So if you want to find us, please don't just stay on YouTube. Find us in the other places. That's why I tell you in the beginning and the end. It's super important. So I'm going to sign out for now and try to enjoy some of this beautiful sunlight, maybe do some gardening myself while I download and upload this show. So until next time, Blake, you have a great one, sir. Appreciate you. And to all the viewers, I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everyone.